cry. We break down, yeah, we lose our minds. Let it go sometimes. Got to let it go sometimes. I know some days we all cry. We break down, yeah, we lose our minds. Let it go sometimes. Got to let it go sometimes. I know some days we all cry. We break down, yeah, we lose our minds. I know some days we all cry. But let's trust life. Let's just trust life. In time it all works out. It's nothing to cry about. We always have our doubts, but let's trust life. Let's just trust life. I know some days we all cry. Let's trust life. Let's just trust life. In time it all works out. It's nothing to cry about. We always have our doubts, but let's trust life. Let's just trust life.
Nobody said it'd be easy, but we took a train to the ceiling. real clockwork soldier.
Generation Orange in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody, how are you doing? My name is Edson Ochoa, and welcome to another episode of Generation Orange. Really happy to be back for another episode to talk about what happened yesterday against Tigres, and of course Saturday against Real Salt Lake. How are you doing, everybody that's in chat right now? We got Blues fan, Harry, we have Darby, and Wilson. Harry's like, what? So disappointed, no Tigres jersey. I mean, it was pretty much a gag. You know, like, honestly, it's one of those things where it was like mixed feelings about it. Like, a lot of people might say, well, you get the best of both worlds. I think I got the best of, the way I saw it was I got the worst of both worlds. You know, having my two teams go up against each other, because no matter what, you know, I was still going to be sad. Yes, Tigres won yesterday. Yes, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about that match later on when Sean hops on. He's running a little late. But, you know, inside of me, you know, I was dying. Like I was dying. Not only because, you know, the Dynamo is still my local team. It's still the local team. And I want for an MLS team to say, oh, we beat a Liga MX team in CONCACAF Champions League. We want to pretty much put out or make the reputation of MLS a whole lot better. But what we saw yesterday was pretty much what common sense told us. The huge disparity between the financial power of these two organizations. You have Tigres, one of the most expensive rosters in the whole continent. And you have the Houston Dynamo with one of the least amount of money put in payroll. Something interesting, now that I touched up on that topic, is that yesterday, to prepare for this match against Tigres, the Houston Dynamo released an email saying that for this match, they were embracing this whole notion of being the team with the smallest payroll. And when I was told about this, because for some reason I'm not getting the emails, but when I was told about this by Victor Ariza, I was like, oh, so when it's not favorable for you, when you view it as criticism, the Dynamo front office is like, no, we can't think about it being the least amount of payroll, right? But when it's convenient for them to mention it, or for them to be that, like, yeah, we're embracing the fact that we have that our squad has a small payroll. Like, which is it? You can't have it both ways. You can't have it where when it benefits you, yes, and when it doesn't, oh no, you can't tell us that, or no, we can't. You know, we don't criticize us about that. It's not about that. Like, get it together, guys. You know, what are you? And yes, on the field, the Houston Dynamo fought. I was surprised. If you guys follow me in the Discord chat, you know, I had been putting, and on Twitter, I had been putting that I felt that that the Dynamo needed to kind of step back and wait for Tigres to kind of attack them. But I was surprised when very early in the match, the Dynamo kept trying to pressure up in Tigres' own field. And they had a couple of attacking opportunities. I was pleasantly surprised about that. As the game went on, one of the things that I was talking to a couple of others there at the press box, I was like, Tigres is an expert in these kind of games. They've learned how to be patient because of how Tuca Ferretti plays, possession with the ball and stuff like that. Because of that whole experience and the fact that this team has been pretty much together for a couple of years already. Because of this experience, I have a feeling that the Houston Dynamo are going to be the ones that are going to get desperate first, and two, they're probably going to get tired first. And I feel that's exactly what happened in the 75th minute when Eder Valencia scored the first goal. I felt that they were getting a little bit desperate. They were getting tired, so they were making some really dumb decisions when it came to passes. And they lost the ball really quickly. And with a team like Tigres, when you got so much speed up on top, you really cannot do that. Another thing I did want to mention was that so after the match, we were there doing I was there in the mix zone, and we managed to talk with Tomas Martinez. And I know you guys are probably asking what's going on with Tomas Martinez. So they asked him, I think the report from Telemundo asked him about his injury. And he said along the lines that he felt he was ready on Monday. So he wanted to practice normally, but apparently that caused his injury to get a little bit worse, so he had to sit out for this match. So from that statement, someone's not doing their job when it comes to with the physical therapy. Someone's not doing their job evaluating these injuries correctly. How are you going to let a player want to do regular training if you analyze their injury, that they're not ready for it yet, that it's too soon? If it's a sprain, or I don't remember exactly what it was. Remember that the Dynamo isn't very transparent at all about these kind of statements. But you can't have this. We do not have the luxury to let we lose players due to injury and then have it get aggravated and lose them for a longer period in time than expected because they thought they were ready. There has to be some sort of evaluation done to it okay, you know what? You're not ready. You still need to do light work. You can't let the players decide what's best for them. Yes, it's their body, but you got to let science prove that they are as ready as they seem to be. And that's what I got from Tomas Martinez's statements. Hopefully I will be getting tomorrow the video of that statement, and I will be posting it on social media because it is interesting. It is interesting to see that he made that bad decision. So now they're saying that, oh, probably we'll get Tomas Martinez against Montreal Impact, but I don't know. It's just tough, and it was tough for him to being up there and not being able to do anything. So, guys, what did you think about? Yeah, Darby, we did have the intro music. What did y'all think about the match? Let me know there in the chat. Sean should be coming on any minute now. So we'll actually officially start down in the valley, Generation Orange, with him in about I would say about 3 minutes. But what did you all think about the match? Did the Dynamo fulfill your expectations, or did you seem for it to be lacking? So one of the things that I do want to talk about, and I'll talk a bit more in depth once Sean comes on. So, Houston Dynamo, they had 10 total shots throughout the whole match, right? 0 were on target. They had opportunities to score, but none of them were on target. It was a field day for Nahuel Guzman. Like, Nahuel Guzman could have literally sat down, opened a comic book, nothing would have happened. Because they never really put an effort into making him work. None of those shots were on target. 6 were off target, 4 were blocked. You cannot win a match like that. Nobody thought that the Dynamo would have opportunities on goal. You have them, and you don't take advantage of them. Don't tell me that you plan on winning like that. I understand it's not easy, especially against a team like Tigres, against a team that is very, very mature defensive-wise. I mean, it's Tuca, come on. But you have to take advantage of any opportunities. There were a couple opportunities. There was one in particular with Albert Feliz, where he was where it was a combination between him and I believe it was Manotas, and he he took forever to get the shot on. He tried to position the ball correctly so it to be him to be comfortable to take the shot. By that time, he had Torres Nilo catch up to him and is able to shove him off the ball. There was another opportunity with Mauro Manotas one-on-one against the keeper. Chaca Rodriguez comes in, shoves him off the ball. He falls down. He starts claiming for a foul. There was no foul. Shoulder-to-shoulder contact. You have to take advantage of these opportunities. Let's take a look at the chat. Wilson says, Tommy Mack seemed fine as a replacement for Tomas. First, I'll say that I didn't get to watch the first 30 minutes due to playing in a softball game. That's all right, Wilson. When I got to check the score, I fully expected it to be 2-0 Tigres or worse. But the defense, while they bent, didn't break and looked great. Really impressed with Fuenmayor, AJD, and Boniek. Then Kenneth Kapner says, I feel like getting shots off has been a problem more than just this game. I'm pretty sure if we go back and look at the stats, I'm pretty sure you're going to be 100% right, Kenneth. Harry says, watched early and they missed some chances. Get that easy goal. I think it's a different ending. Early goal. Sorry, it was the mouse pointer that was kind of in it. Hold on. Okay. All right. Come on. And let's continue. He says, Darby says, Elise got a lesson for sure. His tricks that work against MLS teams didn't work last night. See, here's the thing about it. You know, most of these players that are playing defensive for Tigres, like I said, they have a lot of experience in Liga MX. As Torres Nilo has been around for a while, and it hurts to admit, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will probably be mad when I say this, but the level of Liga MX right now is still a little bit higher than the MLS. Sean, can you hear me now?
I can hear you finally now.
Excellent. All right, now we can change it to the actual regular screen.
Yeah, my apologies. I laid down for a nap at like 5 o'clock and didn't wake up till like 6:30, only to realize I was out of dog food. And, scrambled to go get dog food in time. So, anyways, I'm back. Sorry, guys.
You know what? After a match like yesterday, you know, a lot of us were like extremely tired throughout the day. You know, it wasn't long, like, for example, for the waiting, like against Wasatoya, but you know, I guess you can say it was still at the finished at 11. So by the time people get back home, you know.
Well, I will admit that I stayed up till 1:30, but I was also off today, so I slept in a little bit. I slept until like 8:30.
Yes.
But I went and did laundry, so I had a fairly full day regardless. So
everybody's happy that you're fine, that you're on the show. They were about to kick me out.
So there's two things that I think are takeaways from last night, and it's important that fans recognize two events that took place in this match that changed the momentum in this match. Let's be very clear, Edson. This was a tale of two halves as much as it was a tale of two teams. Tigres did not win that match. The Dynamo lost that match last night.
Oh.
Now hear me out. The Dynamo were on the front foot the entire first half, had 4, 5, 6, 7 chances in the box and continued to try to dribble at the goalkeeper instead of passing the ball off or instead of shooting when they had opportunities. That's not to say that those shots not necessarily would have gone in, but for all of the possession that the Dynamo had in the first half, they did not generate enough chances on goal to equal that possession. On the flip side, Tigres, before the 65th minute, generated minimal attack. They had a few chances, but nothing spectacular in the attack.
Correct.
If you look at that match, 65 minutes from 0 to 65, that is the bulk of the match. Let's be real. Dynamo were winning that match by possession, by statistically, by just that. After that point, and I want you to understand the event that I'm referring to, Beasley was tackled on the end line while trying to usher a ball out. He came up limp. It took about 15 to 20 seconds. He motioned at the bench that he was okay. He thought for a few seconds he might want to come out, but he didn't. After that, he had a noticeable limp the entire rest of the match. He was still able to track back, but you could tell he wasn't at his full 100%. Tigres, being a very smart team coached by a very wise and very seasoned coach, absolutely exploited the injury. And that is why both of their goals came from the right flank where Beasley was covering. What should have happened in the 65th minute when the tackle took place is that Lundqvist came in. Now, is that going to change the outcome of the match? I don't know, but we are far less likely to lose that momentum we had built up because he would have pushed higher up, which would have meant that Tigres would have sat a little further back instead of being able to run at him, and he would have had a little more pace than Beasley had at that point, been able to keep up with those wingers a little bit better, etc. And if you look at both of the Tigres goals, not only do they both come from the right side, they both come from long balls. In the 65th minute when the tackle occurs and Beasley comes up limp, from that moment on, Tigres started playing long balls over the top, started exploiting it and pulling Beasley out further and the center backs out farther to the other side. So you had this huge gap where it was just Beasley on an island with two guys, one of which is a freaking fast winger, a la very similar to an Albert Elise. So, again, it's a tale of two teams, a tale of two halves, and even then it's really a tale of 65 versus 15 minutes, really, or 25 minutes at that point. All credit to Tigres, all credit to Tigres' coach, whose name
Ricardo Tuca Ferretti.
Tuco. All credit to him for taking advantage of that. But absolutely, my biggest disappointment of the night was Wilmer Cabrera not subbing Beasley off. Even if he subs him off after the first goal, that's fine. Even if he had just waited through the first goal, but after the first goal, it was very apparent that Beasley was struggling. And to leave him on, knowing full well that Tigres isn't going to be content with just a goal when they know they've got an easy exploitable channel to run into. I mean, come on, that was amateurish at best. So
you're right. You as a coach, you're supposed to have the authority and the confidence to, if you see something that's not right, even if the player says, I'm okay, you as a coach need to have the authority and say, no, I need you, like, for the sake of the team, I need you to come off and I need this person to come in, because you're not 100% enough to do the duties that you need to do against a player like Julian or Luis Quiñones.
Well, and let me ask this question. What if by leaving Beasley in, I mean, okay, realistically, we all play FIFA. When you leave a player in that takes a knock, their percentage chance of getting re-injured or worsely injured, worsely is not a word, but injured worse, goes up tremendously.
Correct.
And so if you've got a guy that just took a tackle, he's come up a little bit limp, he was thinking he was thinking about maybe he needed to come off, but he said he didn't want to. At that point, as coach, don't you have to say, man, we've got a lot of matches to play through. It's a 0-0 scoreline. Yeah, I'd like to score a goal, but if my left back, who's my captain, is struggling a little bit, shouldn't I pull him off? The chance of re-injury or the chance of a worse injury at that point skyrockets for Beasley. And if it isn't a serious injury and you leave him in and then he gets further injured, you no longer have your starting left back. Now you have to play Adam Lundqvist. And if that's not your guy, okay, fine, I get it. Some people don't like Lundqvist. I don't know why. I love him. I think he's great. Maybe not quite as defensively sound as Beasley because he doesn't have quite as much veteran experience. But I think going forward, he provides a lot more benefit. That's what you needed at that point. And it just felt like to me that at the end of this match, I don't feel like the Dynamo got outplayed. I don't feel like they got outclassed. I feel like Wilmer got outcoached and Wilmer got outclassed. And if that is what I say at the end of this match, I take away from this match that I am proud of the way that the guys played. I'm proud of the way that we came out. I'm proud of the fact that we took it to Tigres for 65 minutes. Now I want to see us do it in their home. I'm not saying we're going to come out with a win. I'm not saying we're going to come out with a win, but there's no reason. We have nothing to lose. Why can't Wilmer just take the brakes off, take the chains off, and just say, Kyoto, Elise, Mauro, or Pena, whoever he starts, whatever, hey, you guys have complete free and utter control. Just go at him. Run at him, run at him, run at him. You have I mean, you can't – it doesn't matter. If you lose 5-0 in El Volcan, at that point, does it matter? It doesn't. Saprissa just lost 5-1. So you're not really making a statement if you go in there and all you do is surrender 2 goals. You're not. You have to go in there and you have to take it to Tigres. Even if Tigres come out and they end up scoring 5 on you, yeah, that looks crappy. But at that point, who cares? You have to be willing to take the risk because this is a do or die situation. This is a win or lose situation. I mean, if you don't win by 2 goals, you're out. So take the opportunity to show what this team is capable of. But this is Wilmer we're talking about. So almost undoubtedly, he's going to come in, be afraid of the situation, which I hate out of a coach, be afraid of the situation and tactically have his team hole up and kind of shoe in a little bit and try to get those goals on set pieces and things like that. And to be fair, that's just not how you have to play. Look at how Ajax came out against Real Madrid in the Bernabeu. I mean, come on. You can't. If Ajax comes in there and they play back, they're not winning that game against Real Madrid. As bad as Real Madrid is right now, they're not winning that game against Real Madrid. So same thing with Manchester United PSG today. If Manchester United sit back, they're not winning the game against PSG.
Yeah.
So, I say all that to say, and I've already said it, but I'm really proud of the guys. I really hope the players understand that even though they surrendered those 2 goals, that they played really well for 65 minutes against a world-class team, and there's no doubt Tigres are a world-class team. As much as they were struggling in Liga MX early, they're not struggling as much anymore. They've kind of found that form starting to come around. Now, granted, this is also their B, quote-unquote, B team, but they've still got really good players that are better than most MLS players. So it's not like we're talking about a USL squad or something that they went up against. Correct. They went up against a team that legitimately could compete in MLS at the highest level. So
there's another thing I want to add in that timeline that you were describing for us. And a couple of minutes in the 62nd minute. So this is a couple of minutes you say before Beasley gets injured. Tuca does this substitution with the
Remember I said there were 2 events. That was the other event.
Yes. So he does a substitution to take out Jorge Torres-Nilo, who got injured fouling Albert Elise. And that's just
which I thought was really funny, by the way. There were 2 times that happened where the Tigres player fouled our guy, fouled the Dynamo player, and then came up hurt. I was like, wow, okay, guys.
So
anyways, sorry.
So here's the magic out of this, and this is how versatile a player like Jesus Dueñas, who I've mentioned many, many times throughout the week, this is how versatile he is. He gets Guido Pizarro, who's a center defensive midfield, gets subbed in the match. Jesus Dueñas gets sent to the left back position. Jesus Dueñas has a lot more of an offensive capability as well. What does that do? That pushes the Tigres line higher up. That pressured the Dynamo in their own half. They lost a lot more balls there. They tried to go for the counters, trying to find that speed of Manotas or trying to find the speed of Kyoto or Elise. But these players, Carioca, Pizarro, Dueñas, they are very experienced. And yes, while they don't have the speed, it seems like they pretty much, unlike Torres-Nilo, They knew how to position themselves correctly to try to avoid being burned with the speed. And so that also helped taking advantage as well of Beasley's injury and the fact that Jesus Dueñas and other players, they love throwing the long balls over to Julian or Luis Quiñones, or Julian in this case. And that was the key right there to for those two goals. And Ener Valencia had another play one-on-one against Joe Wells that was blocked. But if you look at that play, that through ball, that was a beautiful through ball by Guido Pizarro.
Yeah. No, the last 25 minutes of that match just hurt me so bad. And it had nothing to do with how Tigres are playing, and it had everything to do with how the Dynamo played. I mean, ultimately, and you'll laugh at this, Edson, I know, but ultimately Tigres out-dynamoed the Dynamo. And you know exactly what I mean when I say that. They went to a high-press counterattack style against a team that is, what are they known for? High-press counterattack style. And they did it through the wings, and they did it through balls over the top and through the channels. And that is exactly what the Dynamo want to do and try to do. And so on the flip side of that, that's the style that we want. It shows that it can be effective against a lot of different types because Tigres can play it too. The difference is ultimately Wilmer was out coached at the end of the night, and it shows in the score line. And, you know, look, I love Wilmer
quoting you
to
on
death.
that.
Okay, that's fine. I love Wilmer to death. I really, really do. But at the end of the day, if there has been one thing about the tactics that I have said, and I've said it repeatedly, and Edson, you'll attest to this, that Wilmer can be outcoached in big matches because he doesn't adjust quickly, and he doesn't seem to have that tactical shift that he's capable of applying with the team that he has. Now, whether he believes that's the result or whether that's the result of personnel that he has available or whatever, that's up to discussion. But at the end of the day, the coach makes the decisions on who's available. The coach right now, we know we have plenty of players of different types and different play styles available. So, you know, and again, Beasley was the one who came up hurt. You need to make that substitution. And, you know, Tuco made the substitution immediately, whereas Wilmer didn't make the substitution at all. And then he even waited after the first goal to make the next substitution. And even then it wasn't Beasley. So it's just, again, it's compounding Tuca. It's compounding things. And against a world-class team like Tigres, you can't afford mistakes, especially coaching mistakes, especially tactical mistakes, and you can't afford to be out-coached. And that's ultimately, I continue to say it, that is what that game came down to. And I come back to this, though, on the flip side of that, if that is what this match came down to, this particular match, now the home leg for Tigres is going to be totally different, but if that's what this leg came down to, that tells me that the Dynamo team has been built well, the Dynamo team have the right personnel, the Dynamo team have the right initial tactics. Now they just need to have the right coach to handle all of this.
Do you believe that Coach Cabrera is either too conservative or too rigid when it comes to his formation and tactics? Because there was one of the comments that I heard continuously last night was, oh, he always tries to play the same against everybody, against any team, no matter how they play, and everybody knows how they play. And I think if I recall correctly, one of the players that was interviewed yesterday, I don't remember who it was, whether it was AJ or even Mauro, he mentioned that, like, he says, like, they know how we play.
Yeah. Well, Mauro mentioned that as far back as last year, like early or middle of the year. You know, he's mentioned that a couple of times, that teams know how we play. We have to adapt instead of teams adapting to us. Now, I'm going to throw something at you that was part of something I heard as a result of watching the last 2 days of UEFA Champions League. And it comes specifically from the Ajax-Real Madrid match. Ajax has a style.
Correct.
They have a tactic that they play. And opponent be damned. And it was effective, and it's worked, not just against Real Madrid, it's worked against other clubs. So I understand, like, I'm in the same boat. Like, okay, is Wilmer too rigid? Is he too stiff? I think there is a fine line between having a style having a tactical mentality that you want to approach with that teams can figure out, and you still beat them at that, because let's be real, everybody knows we're going to counterattack, and yet we still beat teams consistently with it. But there's also a difference between not shifting when the time arises, not finding ways to exploit areas where teams have shown you they're weak in the first half. If there's one thing about this Dynamo team that has been a struggle for me, it's that when a team shows a weakness, we don't go after that. We continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. If a team has a left back, if they've got like a Beasley and the Beasley gets, he comes up limp, we don't attack him. We don't go after him. Instead, we try to go to the other side because it didn't work the first time. Like, we abandon going after exploiting those holes and those weaknesses because we want to play the same way every time.
You know what's interesting is that was the same complaint I had about Tigres last season, because it was always about maintaining possession of the ball, touch and touch and touch and touch. And there were some teams where it was an opportunity. You saw it where they could easily have countered, but they kept on having that touch. And in this case with the Dynamo, like I feel like it's always, they're always trying to go for Elise and they're always trying to go for Kyoto. And it just seemed like yesterday they tried to go too much with Kyoto, which I'm going to be honest, and frankly, he's been utter crap.
So, but remember, he was the same way at the beginning of last season. He's a slow starter to the season, and Wilmer needs to understand that, needs to recognize that, and needs to play somebody else in his position. He needs to start Marlon Hairston. He should have started Marlon Hairston. When Hairston came into the match changed, not necessarily in the Dynamo favor, but you saw more chances being created. There were 3 or 4 chances created within a 10-minute span once Marlon came in. So, and look, Kyoto, he played bad in terms of his crosses were low. He didn't have the right oomph on his crosses. And you can see when he came off the pitch, he was pissed. Whether that was because Wilmer subbed him off early, that was like the 60th minute or something like that.
Yeah, and I believe he went straight to the locker room.
Yeah, so whether it's that or whether it's something else, I don't know. I suspect he was probably pissed at coach, but probably just as pissed at himself for not playing well. He knows that let's be real. He knows that was his opportunity to showcase what he has if he wants to audition for bigger clubs. If he wants those opportunities at bigger clubs and, for them to come calling, he's got to show up in big matches. This was a match that was being watched by bigger clubs, to be very honest. It really was. Yeah. Because it's Tigres. And so, it's he knew the opportunity was there, and I suspect a lot of his frustration came as much from himself as it was for Wilmer subbing him off so early in the match.
But we keep on going back to the same thing, and that is, coach, the deficiencies in Coach Cabrera. I mean,
well, let me ask you this question.
Let's put it before real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Aren't you technically supposed to put in these kind of matches where it's do or die? Don't you have to put the ones that are closest to being at their 100%? And if you know Kyoto is not doing good, and like you say, he's a slow starter, why start him?
We don't see what takes place in practice, and I've said that about the Dynamo before. That sometimes players start that have shown in practice that they struggle, and some have shown in practice that they're capable, and then when it comes to match time, they just can't seem to figure it out. I don't think Kyoto is necessarily that way. I think Wilmer, just at this point, he has enough faith and trust in Kyoto that he expects Kyoto to work it out. And I agree with you. This type of match should have been a match that Kyoto probably should have sat on the bench. And he should have been a super sub. And then he could have came in and he could have been the guy to get that all important goal and really stick it to him. On the flip side, the question I want to ask you, and this will answer a question that has been lingering for a while now when it comes to the Dynamo. And I've asked it before, you've asked it of me before, but we've never really dove into it. And it's kind of one of the primary topics I want for tonight. There's probably 2 or 3, but this is one specific one. If the coaches were reversed, if Tuca is coaching the Dynamo against Tigres with Wilmer, who wins that match last night?
The Dynamo.
Mm-hmm. So what does that tell you? What is the difference in the two teams at the end of the night?
Coaching.
There you go. It's as simple as that. And look, I like Wilmer. I think he is a good coach. I think he is a player's coach. I think he's had potential. But I think that potential has been stifled by, and you called it rigidness. I'm going to call it a fear of, or a lack of faith almost in himself and his team to rise to the occasion. Because if he really believed in Marlon Hairston and has seen what Marlon Hairston's capable of, which he did in preseason and he did in the, he has in the first little bit here, he's seen what Marlon Hairston's capable of. Have faith in the kid to show you he could do more. Put him in the big moment. If Kyoto's struggling, put Marlon in the big moment. If Beasley is limping, put Lundqvist in the big moment. Have faith in your young guys to rise to the occasion. He brought in Memo. That was really cool, really awesome. But did Memo bring much to the pitch?
No, this wasn't his match.
And it wasn't going to be because the players he was going against. I've always said Memo at best is a talent-wise is an MLS player. And even then, he's a bench MLS player, a super sub. He's not going to be a starter, and he shouldn't be a starter. But you have other players on the bench that absolutely are good enough to be starters in MLS. They're young, very talented, very capable players, and you don't play them. You started Tommy Mack, and he showed you absolutely what he's capable of doing. Why can't you have that same faith in a Marlon Hairston? Why can't you have that same faith in an Adam Lundqvist? Is it because of their age? What is that thing in his head that just creates this like almost coaching block that doesn't allow him to select those players in big matches? At the end of the day, you don't see every team going out there, especially in Europe or where else, and playing all of their oldest players just simply because they're the most experienced players. They play the players that they expect to rise to the occasion and mix it up a little bit. In my opinion, Wilmer didn't mix it up really at all.
No.
Yeah, he played Fuenmayor, but let's be real, that was because his hand was forced.
So Callo says, let's be honest, there's only like 3 players on Tigres' roster that wouldn't be a DP. It's beyond coaching. However, our coaching might have been deficient for said matchup. Don't get me wrong.
9 out of 10, and I'm going to answer that. 9 out of 10 times, Tigres roster is going to take the match. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a 2-0 scoreline or a 1-0 scoreline or a 5-0 or whatever. But what that means is that Tigres does have more talent, more depth on the roster to handle those types of situations. However, go ahead.
And here's another thing, Callo. With Tuca Ferretti, he is very, very anal about discipline. He would never stand for the showing of Kyoto. He wouldn't stand for his antics. He would put him in the under 20s for all he cares. He'd send him down to RGV. If Kyoto did something like that to Tuca, he wouldn't be playing for a while. And Wilmer, I'm sorry, but I don't think if he's struggling with players that are technically no names, I don't think he has the guts to handle superstars. I think tactically they wouldn't know. It'd be like a Lopetegui Real Madrid. Yes, there's a lot of superstars, but he doesn't know what to do with them. And Wilmer Cabrera would not know what to do with Quiñones, would not know what to do with Valencia or Vargas or Guido Pizarro. And Tuca Ferretti, he's been okay. Tuca Ferretti has been through the worst of Tigres, being almost relegated with crappy players, to where we at right now with superstars. And he's managed to handle everything in between. So I'm pretty sure if you give Tuca Ferretti this Houston Dynamo lineup, he would know exactly what to do with it and would make it at least an MLS winning team. And that's all I have to say.
To be fair, Tuca would be one of the best coaches in MLS just coming in, period. But let's change it up a little bit. I think even Matias Almeida would have been a better coach than what Wilmer showed last night. Now, don't get me wrong, Wilmer's shown a few times that he can make the right decisions, but it seems so rare and few between that it tells me that he can't figure it out as a coach. And, this MLS season, I think, will define his Houston Dynamo legacy. If his Houston Dynamo legacy ends up being that we won Open Cup, then that is going to be a failure in general. Has he helped players improve? Yes. But on the flip side, he's had opportunities to establish this team as a force to be reckoned with. And it always seems like we just come up a little bit short. And especially in the big matches, excluding Open Cup for whatever reason that was. And let's be real, in Open Cup, what did Wilmer do? He went after it match after match after match. He unleashed all of the players. And it showed. It was completely different. But here's the thing, Callow. Those players, if you have a coach like Tuca can help those players get out of their own heads at halftime.
Exactly.
You saw it with the Tigres players. They were struggling, and Tuca still had the wherewithal to make the changes on the pitch to help them figure it all out. Wilmer didn't have that.
And that whole thing isn't just in this match. The press have asked them. Many have asked Coach Cabrera many times about that. What are you going to do about the players, not egos, but their attitudes and their fiery, pretty much that they get mad and get red cards and stuff like that. We asked them many times last year, this season against Real Salt Lake. It's been asked as well. He always brings the same generic response about that, and it seems like nothing has been done in order to control these players and how they react to what the referee does, to what if the other team starts pretty much chopping them and with fouls. He hasn't done that, or have not seen any improvement in that, and that all goes back to coaching. And I'm sorry, I like Wilmer Cabrera. I think he's a pretty cool guy, but as a coach, you've had what is it, like going to 2 years with this team, and with these little details, it's just been very short. Question for you, Sean: if this season ends up being a failure, do you think it's time to
define a failure?
No playoffs, no Open Cup.
Okay.
Do you think it's time for him to move on?
Yes. But, and I've said this with players, I've said this with regards to ownership, I've said this regard to front office. Just because a coach leaves and is the reason for issues doesn't mean that your next coach is going to resolve them. Doesn't mean that whoever replaces that person is going to resolve
Yes, but
it.
you get fresh ideas in this team.
You do, but that can also be detrimental. How many times have we seen in MLS a coach come in and it go the other way?
Okay. So then is front office going to be scared about changing because there's the possibility about,
like I said,
because
I
that's
already
the same
said
thing
yes.
that happens with Tuca and Tigres.
No, and I get that, and I already said yes, he needs to go.
Yeah, but
because you do need that. You need that fresh perspective. You need to at least you need to change something for sure. And if Wilmer's not getting it done, you got to find the next guy. You do, and I've followed the Dynamo as a fan long enough to know that they're not going to change. They're likely not to make a coaching change this season or at the end of the season. Let's be real. How long did they stay with Dominic Kinnear? And it was clear he needed to go. It needs to be, if they're going to do it, and there's no rumors to suggest they are. This is just us talking about what we saw last night. If they're going to do it, if they want to really do it, they need to go and they need to do it right. And it can be a no-name, quote unquote, no-name coach. It really can be, but it needs to be a guy that has a fresh perspective, has fresh tactics, tries new things, not somebody that, not a Siggy Schmid, not a Dominic Kinnear, not a John Spencer, not a, Caleb Porter. The list goes on and on.
Almeida,
it could be. It really could be. And the only reason I say that is because I think he has enough capability as a coach to make tactical adjustments.
And not
again,
only, so
we've said the roster is fine. Even the initial tactical approach is fine. It is the game-to-game management, the in-game management that Wilmer seems to struggle with. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And so you need a coach that is better at that part of the game and still similarly able to handle the rest of it, which is you can still come into the match with the same tactics, the same style. That's okay. But you need a coach that can make those adjustments, can see the need to make those adjustments, and doesn't just defer to players to tell them when they're ready to come off the pitch. You can't wait for players to necessarily do that.
Here's another question. I want to hear your honest response about this. Was Wilmer Cabrera brought to the Dynamo too early in his coaching development within the system? Do you think that bringing Wilmer Cabrera back in 2016 to the Dynamo was just a quick Band-Aid after in order to get an actual coach after only just 1 year with the Toros?
I think Wilmer is supposed to be a stopgap coach. I do think that he's not intended to necessarily be the long-term coach. But I do think that the Dynamo, by having him at RGV, stated without saying anything, basically showed that they always wanted Wilmer to kind of be that coach because they like some of the things that he brings to the table. My concern, though, is you can like some things that a coach brings, but if they have areas they're deficient in and they're not improving in those areas and they're not showing the capability to make changes in those areas to improve, then at that point you're at a position where either you change coach or change coach for the opportunity to improve, and so you take the risk with the opportunity for reward, or you take no risk and you maintain the status quo for however long it is you keep the coach. And my concern is with the history of the Dynamo, and perhaps the Dynamo history being what it is was more reflective of the regime previous, but if things continue the way they are, if the team does struggle early, like they did versus RSL, and they struggle for the first 5-6 weeks of the season, the first 12 weeks of the season, at that point, yeah, you got to make a change. I mean, you can't afford a season, and you can't afford to say, oh, well, he can pick it up in Open Cup. No, because Open Cup only gets you into CCL. Yeah, it gives you that little extra boost of money, but it only gets you into CCL. It's not getting you any additional recognition. It's not bringing additional fans into the stadium. We can prove that right now. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
But the opportunity in CCL, if you can't improve, winning Open Cup doesn't mean anything if you can't get farther in CCL than this. And, it's – Blues makes a really good point. Let's not forget the Dynamo literally signed Wilmer to an extension a year ago. So he's probably got another 2 years left on his contract. And I don't foresee the Dynamo willing to buy out the rest of his contract in order to go for the next, for another coach.
I don't know. But I think the Dynamo are running out of time. If they want to get the fans back, if they want to avoid the embarrassment like last night of having the opposing team pretty much dominate in your stadium and claim that territory as their own, after the match, they're like, oh, this is our home in the United States. If they don't want that kind of embarrassment again, they have to do something now, and it has to be something on the pitch. Off the pitch stuff would only get you so far. But people coming in want this team to be a winning team, and that has to be going into playoffs and getting into at least the conference finals. Because if not, people are gonna be thinking, oh, it's the same thing every year. Like they're not gonna come back. And no matter what John Walker does off the pitch, if the on the pitch product is not competitive, they're not gonna come back.
Update: SKC just had a goal scored on them by Independiente. 1-0 Independiente versus SKC.
Okay, in the 39th minute.
Yeah, 40th minute, right,
okay.
basically.
Whoa. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
no. Oh, so if we won MLS Cup, we wouldn't sell out the stadium either, but we'd get more fans back.
I mean, it has to be consistent. It has to be something.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. It has to be consistent. I mean, you can afford to miss MLS playoffs a season here and there. You can't afford to do that multiple seasons in a row. And we've already done it 2 seasons. No, we made it the season before last. And we had a good run, and I think it did reflect in the stands a little bit. We had a good, relatively decent showing fan-wise for the first couple matches of the season. But as the team struggled early in the season, so did – no, we didn't struggle early this season last year, did we? But we hit those summer months too, and there's so many away matches in the summer months now because of how MLS does our scheduling that it's hard to maintain any momentum you get from successful, early action in the season. MLS scheduling does not help us whatsoever. We have a bunch of front-loaded home games, and then we have a bunch of away games in the summer. And this year we have a bunch of away games to close the season. So it's going to be a struggle. And yes, Kenny, that match is in KC.
So what do you recommend though? So what do you think will get fans in the stadium if it's not on the pitch performance? Because technically what the fans are paying for is what they're watching and the pitch. And if they're not getting what they think is worth their value, they're not going to come back. If this team, like, you can have the best Wi-Fi in the stadium, you can have the cheapest food and drinks at the stadium, but if you're constantly being, not making playoffs or being in the middle of the pack, they're not going to come back. They're not going to see any value, especially if you market this team as a championship team.
I mean, let's be real. If Atlanta came out in their first season and didn't make MLS playoffs, and no matter how much they undersold, cost-wise, their concessions, no matter how many big names they had, that second season, Atlanta fans would have not shown up. It would have been a much different story. The reason they've been successful is because the on-field product has matched the off-field product. Or I should say on-pitch product has matched the off-pitch product. And so they've been able to create an identity around that. Whereas with the Dynamo, it's kind of a counter. It's that while the on-pitch product does it sometimes seem to mirror the off-pitch product, which is bad a lot of times both ways, there are some positives to both, but it's not consistent and it's not across the board. And you can be really good in 2 or 3 areas, but if you're not good across the board, you're going to struggle, especially in a city like Houston, where there's enough competition for attendance, there's enough competition for traffic, there's enough competition for eyeballs on the TV, there's enough competition for marketing, that you're just not gonna be in a position in this market to really make a difference, really make a dent. And that's what we've seen with the Dynamo. There's a deficiency in the Dynamo somewhere. And addressing the difference between Chris Canetti and John Walker is a big step, but there's still another major deficiency. And look, I love Gabriel Brenner, but as an owner for an MLS franchise, he has handcuffed this team tremendously. Because the approach, it's not that we want the approach to be, oh man, we're going to spend the least amount of money every season. We're going to take the time to really scout and find the right players and bring in young players that have the capability to become stars. We're going to build through the academy and put some money into that, etc. We're going to, because of our owner, because of Gabriel Brenner and his lack of financial wealth. I mean, he's got a lot of money, but he doesn't have a lot of expended, money that he could just spend willy-nilly. Because of that, because he doesn't have deep pockets, you're not able to bring in your true soccer superstars. And there were some players brought in this window that I don't need a Wayne Rooney type of player. I don't need a Zlatan Ibrahimovic type of player, but I would love to get a To get some of the players that came in this window. Matthias, I can't even remember his last name, Jorgensen at this point. Matthias Jorgensen, fantastic freaking player. Very similar in style to like an Adam Lundqvist, doesn't play the same position. But, he's a DP for a reason. Hosen over in San Jose, he's a great player, would have been fantastic for the Dynamo. But again, you can't bring him in because you don't have the money to pay for it. And so, there's players like that across the board in MLS. And whereas 2, 3, 4 years ago, you could afford to be like the Dynamo and not bring in those players, even because you could find other players to match them. Now the players that are being brought in that aren't DPs but are TAM players, their talent level is so far above and beyond what it used to be that now the Dynamo find themselves at the back of the pack. And I say that they still have some of the best talent in the league, but how long are they going to retain that talent? And if that talent continues to struggle, can you really call them the best talent?
Correct. And that was one of the conversations I had with a Tigres fan here from Houston on Twitter. He actually goes out to a couple of Dynamo games. He was telling me, but one of the things he's saying, he said the same thing. He feels that ownership has just handcuffed this team into bringing in the cheapest talent out there, and that he says he wants players that are really, really talented, and that you could see right away that they are good players, not something from the future. And I kind of responded, I agree with that. I mean, that whole looking for future talents should be left up to the Toros. Bring in those players that you think might be good for the future. Instead of keeping them in the MLS, have them in the Toros, but have the actual good talent. Like I said, I don't want you to bring like the Zlatans, the Velas, but just bring decent, even though they don't have the name recognition, the talent recognition of that they are above average.
And something else to add to that too, in thinking about it as well. I'm going to bring up the Houston Astros. I mean, as a club, they're one of the lowest payrolls. But that doesn't mean that they're one of the worst teams, and that's because they took the time to build. They took the time to really find that young talent. And what did they do? They played that young talent even at the expense of winning on the pitch. And I feel like the Dynamo have insisted that, hey, we can't suck, so we're going to continue to play our top players regardless of if they're struggling, instead of playing our young players and giving them an opportunity to show that maybe they deserve to start over them. A perfect example is Lundqvist over Beasley. There are plenty of opportunities that Beasley should reasonably start over Lundqvist, but there's plenty of times Lundqvist should actually get that start, and he doesn't. I feel like they continue to push Beasley out there because they simply it's almost like they have a refusal to play younger players. At this point, they should be bringing up Carlos Small. They should be inserting him into the lineup. Pena is a backup. That's great, but clearly Pena hasn't figured everything out yet. So why not bring up Carlos Small and give him an opportunity to show you what he can do? There are players that will rise to the occasion if you give them a chance. Yes, there are going to be players that won't. But that's on the responsibility of the coach to figure those things out. That's on the responsibility of the technical staff, the front office, to figure those things out. And right now, they're not. They absolutely are not. No, they were. So I was talking about when they first started to get really good. It wasn't that like first season, 2016, I think, or maybe it was 2015, before the season before their playoff run, like that final, I think, third season of being crappy. So that was what I was referring to. So Calla makes a really good question. He says, let me ask you a question. He's actually talking to one of the people in chat, but this is important. The Dynamo signed a Mexico player, because we've kind of beat around the bush on this, but let's say they sign a Mexico's star. Let's say they go sign Giovanni Dos Santos, who's available right now. Let's just say they do it. I know, I feel the same way. And let's say he's a rental because he's only going to stay a year, because the Dynamo at the end of the season, they're not going to be able to pay him what he was making with LA. So they're going to have to let him go, and he's going to go somewhere else. So he's a rental for 1 year. It's a perfect example of this. Do those fans that came to watch him, that helped fill the stadium, quote unquote, fill the stadium, do those Mexico fans stay with the Dynamo after he's gone? Maybe a couple thousand, but that's chump change compared to what you really need to have happen. And so it's it's a catch-22. You can't just okay, Independiente versus SKC is in Panama. Okay, that scoreline isn't quite as bad then, but it's still really bad showing for SKC so far. Of course, it's been a bad showing for all the MLS teams so far in this particular round. But it's a combination of how you market the players, how you market the team, how you market this market, how you market to fans, how you market. I mean, it's all of these things compound over time. And, I feel like the Dynamo stuck with Canetti too long. I feel like the Dynamo have, they stuck with Dominic Kinnear too long. And it just makes me wonder if this is a Dynamo issue more so than just a Wilmer issue. But on the flip side of that, you can't address the Dynamo side of the issue if you don't address the Wilmer side of the issue either. Mm-hmm. So I just, and I don't know who the one is that's making those calls, but at the end of the day, it has to come back to ownership. You can't change ownership unless ownership's willing to change and you have somebody willing to spend the money. And I said it at the end of last season, Brenner's not going to be able to sell for more money than he paid until this team is consistently winning, consistently drawing attendance. And, so it really has to be that we have to address those needs in the front office. We have to address those needs with the technical staff, and we have to do it more consistently and quicker. Yeah. We can't be giving guys extensions when they still are struggling and they still show deficiencies and they're not improving in those areas. I feel like sometimes we just bring guys in and we don't have any goals to set for them. We just say, do what you do, and that'll be good enough. And at the end of the day, those guys come in and they do good, relatively good for a little bit, whether it's a player, whether it's a technical staff guy, whether it's a front office guy. And then after 6 months to a year, they realize they don't have to step their game up because there's no goal for them to reach for. Mm-hmm. If it's not a goal-oriented organization, which at this point it doesn't seem to be, it's not a goal-oriented organization and anything, status quo is okay, then you're not ever going to improve. So
what you're telling me that this organization is run on mediocrity?
It's an organization that is okay with mediocrity. And I don't think they started okay with mediocrity. I think they got into a culture that was okay with mediocrity. And don't get me wrong, if we had Jay on tonight, he would rip me a new one for saying that. But I do think that at the end of the day, there are enough individuals, there's enough of a culture of mediocrity that it has to be dealt with and it has to be addressed. And those are things we don't see on a day-to-day basis. They're things that we don't have, vision into to see because they're internal things, because the Dynamo like to be very opaque in how they handle and process things and do things. But at the same time, it's everything I've said here are just the things that I've seen that are struggles, the things that I've seen that are issues. And, it's how do you improve those things? And the answer is we as fans can't. We don't have any say in it, and it's frustrating. I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to support the team. I know plenty of people that will still show up and support the team because, and I said this on Down in the Valley, and I'm going to say it to these fans here, Houston Dynamo fans, because they need to hear it. Same goes for Houston Dash, but primarily Houston Dynamo at this point for just this portion. Having a soccer team, having a professional MLS soccer team in our city is a privilege, not a right. And if you believe it is a privilege and that we should have one, and that's why that's why you're showing up because you're just enjoying the entertainment, that's fine, whatever. But if you're not showing up, then you are saying that you think it's a privilege we have the team. If you're not showing up and you're trying to say that it's because the team sucks and they're not doing what you expect them to do, you believe it's a privilege, not a right. Or you believe it's a right, not a privilege. At the end of the day, it is a privilege. It is a luxury that we have because we are a large city and because ultimately AEG helped fit the bill to bring the team here. We need to respect that. We need to appreciate that as fans. We need to take the time to show our support, even if the team is struggling. Jay talks all the time about the circle of suck. And the circle of suck sucks because you're in a circle of suck. It's kind of in the name. But the only way the circle of suck, you get out of the circle of suck, is that you have to pull yourself out bit by bit. It's not going to happen overnight. Organizational changes don't happen overnight. You don't see organizations go from last to first very often without significant changes that happen across the board. Mm-hmm. And in MLS, it doesn't really happen. It happens because MLS is single entity, single entity ownership, but it doesn't happen in MLS like we think it does. It's just that there's enough parity in MLS that you can go from last to first, but your team does not go from last to first. The quality of play goes from last to first, but does it stay consistent? And the answer is normally no. If a team goes from last to first, they don't stay consistent year over year.
So also asks, he says, what are the hurdles that Houston and the Dynamo face that other successful MLS team cities don't deal with?
Market. That's one of our biggest hurdles, to be totally, real and honest. This market is not a good soccer market. Yes, there are plenty of Tigres fans in Houston. Yes, there are plenty of Liga MX fans in Houston. And Edson, we've talked about this.
Yes.
But just because they're Liga MX fans does not automatically insinuate that they're going to become MLS or Houston Dynamo fans. Just because there are a lot of fans of Honduras or, Olympia. Is it Olympia?
Yeah,
Olympia here, just because there's a lot of El Salvadorans here does not mean that they're automatically going to become Dynamo fans or MLS fans simply because there's a team here in Houston. It is, and Edson, I'll let you speak about this, but this market, one of the number one hurdles that this market faces for soccer is loyalty to home clubs. Not the club of the city you live in, but the club of the city that you came from. And Edson, I'm going to let you talk about that because you have the best perspective, I think, on that. Being able to speak from kind of like personal experience almost. Just your family, type stuff. So I'll let you speak to that.
So I've mentioned this in Down in the Valley and here as well. So basically what happens is this is pretty much a tradition, a generational thing where the first generations of Hispanics that come into the United States, well, they already have an established team, that team that they go for. Why? Because their parents were supporters of that team, because their grandparents, because their great grandparents, the list goes on. So this is something from generations, and so you're taught as a kid that you love this. That okay, we go for this team, you have to love this team too, and that if you support somebody else, or that is betrayal to the to this team. For example, okay, in my family. In my mom's side of the family, it's very divided. Half of them are Tigres, half of them are Rayados. But come on, my family's from Monterrey, which is pretty divided with these two teams. So you're always going to have some sort of mix in it with that. My parents are Rayados, my sister's a Rayada, I'm a Tigre fan. But it's been like that. But if you support somebody else in another league closer, right? In this case, MLS with the Dynamo. Oh, you're not a true fan of Tigres because you support another team, and that's the way they see it. You get ridiculed by it. You become the joke, and they start saying, well, you're just a we call it a chaquetero Villamelon. Which is somebody that apparently changes teams whenever they can. So it's very tradition based. That if you're Americanista, your offspring, your kids have to be Americanistas too. Oh, you can't, like, if you're Americanista and your son decides to be a Chivas fan. Oh lordy, he or she's not gonna hear the end of that. So that's where this is going. So coming into the United States. You get all these immigrants that, I'm a huge fan of Olympia. No, I can't support the Dynamo. That'd be betraying Olympia. That'd be betraying my colors. I bleed blue and red. So that's the biggest hurdle I see with these with the adults soccer fans here in this city, is están muy arraigados. They're too closely knit to these traditions that they're very reluctant to get out of it. Callow brings up a good point. Let's start with the kids, but that's a long process.
That's a 10 to 15 year process. I mean, that's not a 2 to 3 year process. And so I do feel we're kind of in that process. And so, yeah, I mean, these years they're going to be a struggle, in different ways. But at the same time, if we don't fix certain other things before those kids come of age, then it's not going to matter, because their team is going to suck ass. Mm-hmm. And, is not going to be very good, or they're going to be, perennial mediocrity teams. And so if you're perennially mediocre in a city where you have other teams that are performing well, or in a city where, where American football is the king, you're going to struggle to draw attendance. You just are. So David brought up a good point, though. I say a good point. I'm going to actually counter this point. He says kids these days can support so many clubs. That mentality of loyalty is going away to some degree. I think that's true. But I also think you're always going to have, in certain cultures, you're always going to have that mentality of loyalty, because it goes so far back. And so, parents right now are teaching their kids about loyalty to their home club that, grandpa and great grandpa supported, and that dad supports. And that's going to continue for at least, another generation, really. But the real meat of it here, is what can be done to deal with these things. And I think at the end of the day, and everybody's going to hate this answer, but there's nothing that we can do as fans. We can rant and rave and bitch and moan and what have you all day long, but we don't have control over those things. We can voice our opinions, which is what we do. And it makes us all feel better, because it's, we're realizing it's not just us that are feeling that way, but a lot of us are feeling that way. But what we can do regarding that circle of suck that I was talking about is get involved and get engaged and get active. You can help right the ship by simply getting involved. It's easy to sit at home and watch a match, but and then complain about the team. But if you're not going to matches, there's no ownership in the team for you. I want you guys to understand that the reason that I'm pushing so hard to see more fans come out overnight, it's because I expect us to be able to show ownership that that investing in this, or future ownership, that investing in this product, there is the opportunity there. There is the capability there to sell out. We did see it with when Zlatan came into town, but that was only one match. We need to show it consistently. And look, USL clubs can draw a few thousand fans every match. Some of the top ones can, and they're not better talent-wise than the Dynamo. So why can't we draw that many fans consistently? And if it's just because the team's a loser, then, that mentality in and of itself is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If it's because the team sucks and they're never going to get better, again, self-fulfilling prophecy. But the team can improve. The talent really is there. But, it takes each of us doing our part just as much as it takes ownership doing theirs, as much as it takes management doing theirs. And yeah, there are going to be times where things are going to be a struggle. There's going to be times where, people standing in the supporters section, they lose their voice, and they do it, for 2-0 loss to Tigres in their home stadium, when 85 to 90% of the fans in the stadium were Tigres fans. That's going to happen. But at the end of the night, you can walk away feeling like you did your part, regardless of what the result is. You did your part. It's really vital that we as fans get involved where we can and how we can. For some people, that means just simply volunteering your time, with Dynamo charities. Get out there in the community and help them connect with the community. because that can bring new fans in. For some people, that means getting involved with the supporters group. Maybe you have some really good ideas and good ways to help the supporters groups grow or deal with whatever they need to deal with. Hey, I'm sure the supporters groups will welcome you with open arms. For some people, that's gonna mean going to matches and being in your section and trying to help some people get involved and get engaged. For other people, that may mean just talking up the Dynamo on a day-to-day basis with their coworkers. Whatever it is, it's up to us to do our part if we expect the front office and we expect the organization to do theirs. If the front office is going to do their part and they're going to attempt to improve things, which I genuinely feel this offseason they did, maybe not as much as some people wanted, but they did, then it falls on us to do our part. It falls on us to do what we can to support that, and it falls on us to mirror that effort. If they're going to put in the effort, so should we.
Yes, exactly.
A good point, and this is the second topic of the night that I wanted to get into. So I'm really glad Sir Fiesta's timing is fantastic. Sir Fiesta said, it needs to be the cool thing to do in terms of supporting the club, in terms of being a fan of the club. It just needs to be cool. But he or she, I can't tell. I'm going to say he, just guessing. I'll use they. They also make the point that the supporters groups, according to them, are segregated and not welcoming. I do know Darby and probably Bob/Pat would take umbrage with that statement tremendously. I think that is a perception that has made its way into
General public.
The mentality of the general public around the supporters groups. And I think that is based on previous experiences that a few people had. But I challenge those people that feel that way to attend a match or attend a away watch party or a pregame event with either El Batallon or Texian Army, because I do believe both are actively trying to improve. And Darby said the same thing, echoes that sentiment. I'm going to take that back. I don't believe that. I know that for a fact. They're both trying to improve in those areas, and both have made great strides and great efforts in those areas. And I think to some extent you can see the impact of that last night in the supporters section. The Texian Army section was as full as it's been in a long time. Were those all Texian Army members? No. But most of those fans were engaged for a good portion of that match. A lot of those guys were chanting and singing along. So, strides are being made to make it more welcoming, to make it better. It's as much as anything else, you can complain about those things. And Sir Fiesta, I'm not trying to specifically call you out. Don't feel like this is a personal attack. It's just a mentality that I've seen that's cropped up, and I'm calling it out because it needs to be called out. But it's as much it's easy to say that in the stands in another section or, from the computer or whatever, but come out to those events and see how they're different, see how they've changed. It is really easy to just say those things. And I'll be one of the first ones to raise my hands. I've been that way in the past where, sitting in 102, and Cisco will echo this sentiment. We would sit in 102 and there were plenty of things that we saw that, that were things that we saw that frustrated us with the supporters groups. And we're trying to do our part where we can. But we're just two people. It takes all of us doing our part to really make a difference right now. Darby says this Saturday, Texian Army is tailgating in Lot C before the match. And she says, come meet us. And I know personally, knowing Darby well, that when she says come meet us, she means walk up to her at the tailgate, say hello, tell her you saw the YouTube video from Generation Orange, tell her why you're there, let her know who you are. And she will do everything in her power to make you and ensure that you feel welcome. Sir Fiesta, hey, that's your opinion, my man. That's your opinion. Sarah, I think the match starts at 4.
Yes.
On Saturday, and I'm pretty sure, knowing Texan Army, they'll begin the tailgate 3 hours before the match, which would be 1 o'clock. So it'll be going 1 until 3:30. I think they're trying to close those at 30 minutes before, so everybody can try to be in the supporter section at the before kickoff.
Sir Fiesta, but do you really see it firsthand? Like, from the outside in, is that really something firsthand? I mean,
no. Hey, look.
No. It's just like, I feel like it's like me saying, well, like, see, I don't even know. For example, before, I was usually very, very critical of Texan Army because very little numbers, because of this whole segregation. But once I met Darby, once I met Brian, once I met everybody with Texan Army, I kind of understood that, yes, these guys, these people are actually trying to make things better. Same thing with El Batallón. You don't really know exactly what happens inside an organization until you're with them. The couple of weeks I was with El Batallón, I learned a little bit about them to see what their general culture was like, and that's where I said, hey, you know what? It seems like El Batallón may be very cliquish right now. Now there's probably, from what I've heard, there's been some improvements, but Darby's giving you an invitation to go out there and meet them firsthand, talk to them about them, learn more exactly what goes on within the organization, within Texan Army, what their plans for the future are. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to take advantage of the opportunity, then I'm sorry. Then there's really not much that you can do. They're giving you the opportunity to learn more, change your opinion about them, kind of even listen, or they're listening to you to give them ideas on how to make stuff better. But if you're not going to take the opportunity, then I'm sorry. It's and I say that every time. I say that with RGV as well. With people that criticize the Stampede for their low numbers and or things like that, or that they're not, they're not connecting with the public. I mean, go out there, help them out. Okay, you guys have an idea on how the Stampede can connect? Let them know. They're more than happy to hear you out. And they've personally have said, hey, we're willing, come join us at that Stampede, have a beer or something. We want to hear y'all's opinions on how we can be better. But if nobody wants to take the opportunity and have your voice heard, then don't complain.
No, you're good. There are things that happen at matches that do echo Sir Fiesta's sentiment, and I will readily admit that, as I'm sure Texan Army and EB leadership would as well. But you can't. Those things have been there for years. The segregation, the mentality of us versus them, has been something that's developed over a very long time, and I've seen it. And I don't know if you were specifically talking about that segregation, but I do believe that there is a definite push underway to deal with a lot of the us versus them mentality. It's those types of things don't go away overnight, and getting involved is not a written consent that you agree with everything that either supporters group does. Getting involved doesn't mean that you approve of those actions. Getting involved and becoming a member, for instance, doesn't mean that you're signing up to be part of that mentality. If you want to see those groups change, if you want to see that mentality to go away, Sir Fiesta, to your point, if people want to see EB and TA become more welcoming and less intimidating to new people coming in, then those people that want to see that need to get involved. It can start with those people. It could start with those people that feel that way, helping to allow other people that come not feel that way. It's one of those things where, and like I said, I'm one of the first ones to raise my hand because I've been like this, and Cisco and I will both admit this, that, it's easy to criticize from the outside looking in. And it can still be easy to criticize from the inside looking out, as to some of the things inside. But I think there's a certain responsibility that we as fans have to not necessarily embrace the supporters groups, but I think as fans, we have a responsibility to help support the club. And for some people, that is going to be the supporters groups. I think Oso asked the question earlier. Would you say it's better to bring, your family or family members to the tailgate or pregame parties or away watch parties or whatever, versus bringing friends? And I think the answer to that is it depends on what type of supporter you want to be. If you aim to be a supporter that wants to be in the section, then just me personally, I would probably say bring your friends, don't bring your family necessarily. That's not to say that you can't bring your family. Darby and Brian bring Barron. He's 12 years old. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. And he's been going to this, with the supporters group with Texan Army for a couple years at least. So it's not that you can't. It's just that if you are, you need to be aware of what it means to be part of the supporters group. And some of the things that do take place there. But it's really interesting to see that statement echoed so frequently as a sentiment that the supporters groups aren't welcoming to new members or to newcomers. I know of two people in particular that came to an away watch party that had already signed up to be members of Texan Army, but are now entrenched members of Texan Army because they were welcomed with open arms, because people went and talked to them and found out who they were and took the time to get to know them. So I can't say the same thing about EB because I don't know, but I guarantee you if you go to King's Court and you hang out with EB, that, yeah, it's intimidating because there's so many of them and because of the general kind of mentality around go ahead.
And the stark difference in culture, how El Batallon is very Latin American, South American style.
And here's the thing, right? I think there's this desire from some people to see a united single supporters group because that works in other cities. And I don't want to ever see that, because we read Manny's statement last week, and Manny said it, Houston is a very diverse city with diverse cultures from across the world, especially the Hispanic Latino community here. And so, EB for the most part encompasses that culture and those cultures, because it's not just a single culture, but those cultures and those styles of supporters. Whereas Texan Army is more of, and I'll be honest, it's more of a college football style supporters, type thing, with the tailgates and what have you. So, it's amazing to me that both have survived as long as they have. But I think it's important that we as fans remember that they are different cultures. There's always going to be a little bit of discourse between the two. But at the end of the day, I hope between both of them that the number one thing that they're there for is to support the team first and foremost. And that takes precedence over the difference in support, the difference in culture, the difference in whatever else. I hope that at the end of the day, that it's not about uniting the supporters groups, but instead embracing the fact that they're different cultures. And that's really amazing to me, because I think that can be a defining factor of what makes support in Houston and supporting, supporters groups in Houston and supporting Houston Dynamo different than a lot of other cities, is we do have that melting pot of cultures. And so a young family of four, I'll say this, so I think if it was me, here's what I would do. I would check out both El Batallon and Texan Army. I would talk to some people that are involved in each, or some people involved in one and some people involved in the other, and try to get a feel for what makes the most sense. You could absolutely bring them to a Texan Army tailgate. I know Darby and Brian would make sure that they were, you guys were well taken care of there. It is a little harder with younger family members, of course, and those are the types, but right. So I want this to come across just in talking about this. Oso is looking to get involved. He's asking questions because he wants to get involved, right? So just by us, Edson, right now, this is such a cool thing because it's happening right in front of our eyes, literally live as we're on the air, but we're pre-recorded, but live as we're on the air, but it's look, just talking to people, man, just, Darby came up with the hashtag and I love it. Hashtag do our part. Just talking about it, doing what you can be enough to get some people involved and engaged. And let me tell you, guys like Oso, I guarantee you they're passionate. They want to help see things improved. And those are the guys that they're going to, at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that help it improve. And so, this is my passion right here. What's going on in chat is amazing. Edson knows this because we've talked about this. He sees me smiling. He's like, oh, this is beautiful. But it's just, so if you've never been, have you never been to a Dynamo match, or are you just asking supporters in general? I'm trying to kind of get a feel of what you're asking here.
I'm guessing that he's going out to the match and see what kind of experiences to. But
on that, I would say get hooked up with someone like a Darby or someone from EB that can help show you around, take you around, help you get acclimated, give you some ideas of stuff you can do in stadium, those kinds of things. Okay, so perfect example, right? You've never been, you've only watched on TV. So number one, I would probably go to a Dynamo match, and I'm probably going to get hate from both Texan Army and EB for saying this. But if you've never been to a match, I would go to a match and not involve yourself with the supporters groups for your first match. I would go and get the general experience first. And the reason I say that is because you need to kind of know what the experience is. And with a family of four, I can tell you in 102, there were kids in that section all the time. Your kids are going to hear a few things they probably shouldn't hear if the referee is crap or action on the pitch is crap. But like the Dynamo Try, they've got the Dynamo Diesel's Corner, which is specifically a kids area. They've got a small concession stand that's been set up for specifically kids with kid-based pricing. So there's a lot of opportunity there too. So go and experience it first. Oh, and absolutely, David brings up a really good point. So if you have the opportunity with your kids, especially, I would, genuinely speaking, if you want the opportunity to experience a professional soccer match in Houston with your family for the first time, take them to a dash match, because I can tell you, having been to multiple dash matches, multiple Dynamo matches with my niece, that starting her with the dash allowed her to get acclimated to the kind of the environment of what the stadium atmosphere is like, what a soccer match is like in person. It also lets you gauge their ability to stay tuned into the match, like focused on the match, how much attention they're going to need throughout the match, those kinds of things. So maybe start with the dash match first, and then maybe move to the Dynamo once you kind of figure out which one of them is more into it. If both of them are, that's fantastic. But that would be the way that I would approach it personally. And again, personal has nothing to do with anything else, just personal opinion.
So Sir Fiesta asked, where was it? I lost it. Oh, what's the difference between Atlanta and Dynamo as far as demographics and soccer fans? Why can't people be like them? Is it that they're just the shiny new object, or do they have the secret sauce?
That's a really good question, but I'm going to say two things to that. It's both. It is a shiny new object, but they also have a secret sauce. The shiny new object was what got them in the door with the fans. What the secret sauce is, it was having Tata Martino as their first head coach. Mm-hmm. It was having him for 2 years. It was having the high talent quality of players. And the really secret sauce is having a billionaire owner that is also an NFL owner that can afford to take risks and not have to worry about what the return on the investment is going to be. And AEG can't compare to Arthur Blank. There's a reason AEG doesn't own a football team and Arthur Blank does. And that's all I'm going to say on that. That it's not about Atlanta's demographics or market. It's about their ownership.
And it's not just about if they have enough money to have an NFL team too. Just take a look at Robert Kraft. I mean, he has the best football team in the NFL out there, in the New England Patriots, even though I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. But you look at the New England Revolution, they're just utter trash because Robert Kraft does not really care about the soccer team. He just has it just to have it. Whereas Arthur Blank, you can see that he is not only is he dedicated to the Falcons, he's also dedicated to Atlanta United. And you can see that you can see it on the way he's investing his money in his team and getting signings, making sure, okay, Tata Martino's gone. Let's go ahead and get another coach of a similar caliber as Tata Martino. Miguel Almiron being sold to Newcastle, keeping Joseph Martinez and most of the major squad of it. You know, he's got, maybe it might not be him per se that's making all these decisions, but he has people around him that know how to handle soccer well, which is something that Robert Kraft does not have. And I'm sorry, but it seems like Gabriel Brenner, for the first couple of years that he's been ownership of this team.
Are you going to turn your camera back on? Because I'm tired of looking at myself on the YouTube video.
Oh.
Especially when I was looking down at my phone. I didn't mean to derail your train of thought, but that was pretty funny. It's like, oh crap, I'm on camera and I'm the only one. Thank you. Whoa, that's kind of cool. My Zoom chat has me on both. There you go. Much better, buddy. Much better. So yeah, but you know, that's what Edson was trying to get to, right? Is that at the end of the day, that's kind of the big difference between Atlanta United and us. It's kind of it's not just ownership, of course, but that is one of the bigger things. And I feel like if we had the right ownership that was able to spend that kind of money, like Atlanta, like Arthur Blank and Atlanta United do, that this team would be a whole lot easier. And Oso's right. It's easy to spend other people's money. So if you don't have the right general manager, you don't have the right technical director, you don't have the right coach, then spending that money is not going to help. If you don't have the right chief revenue officer or the right president of operations or whatever John Walker's new title is, you know, then it's not going to matter because you have to have the right people in place. You know, there's as much to do with having the right ownership as there is to do with having the right everything else. And right now, what I've seen tends to tell me that maybe we don't have the right everything else quite yet, but we do, in my opinion, based on the talent we have on this roster at the amount of money that we're spending, I do believe we have the right general manager, for sure, the right technical manager. I don't know what his official title is, but I do think Matt Jordan is that guy. He is the right guy. What he does with the salary budget and with our salary budget is remarkable and phenomenal in every kind of way. Now, with that being said, if we were to suddenly get that billionaire owner infusion and have a ton of money, do I think he would be the right general manager at that point? To be honest with you, I don't know if he would be capable of finding if he would be capable of finding the talent, the higher value talent. I think his expertise is finding that lower value, or still the high talent level, but at lower price points. And working the salary budget to work as well. But it is what it is, right? I mean, it's not Callow, to Callow's point. Gabriel Brenner is a billionaire, yes. The difference is you're talking Arthur Blank billionaire versus Gabriel Brenner billionaire. Cisco looked up last season. He looked up the ownership value, or the value of owners, and it's hundreds of billions of dollars difference. It's pretty stark. We haven't taken a break yet, man. And I don't want to. No, I really don't.
We have 20 minutes left. I mean, we're already too far in to take a break already. And
I did not realize it was 8:40. Holy crap. Hey, guys, if you're watching, do us a favor. If you've enjoyed this talk, if you've really connected with what we're talking about, if you've been involved in chat, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, share the stream with friends. Make sure they're aware. Generation Orange every Tuesday night, unless there's a Dynamo match on Tuesday night, then Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central. Edson and myself, and occasionally we will have guests on. Sometimes it's going to be like tonight where it's just us talking and interacting with you guys. We love these types of nights, though. We love engaging with you guys and talking with you guys.
Because these conversations there's no other place where we can have these kind of conversations that are.
I mean, look, you can call into Glenn Davis's Soccer Matters, and I'm not knocking the show, but you don't get the 15, 20, 30, hour and a half long conversation, because you only get your 2-minute spiel, and then he's gonna rebuttal you, and you're usually not gonna get a chance to respond. And it's nothing against him. That's just how the radio show is set up. We're not a radio show, so we don't have those restrictions. But at the end of the day, and I really had another topic I wanted to talk about, but I'm not even going to touch it, because unless we want to go 3, #make-it-3 ?
Hashtag make it 3, guys.
After last night, yeah, let's make it 3 after last night. That'd be funny. With what, like 30 minutes of actual talk about that match, and now an hour-long talk about everything else. There's more than just ownership involved. But ownership has to be the right ownership. Because we're going back to the question of the demographics. What's the difference in the market? I think when it comes to the market, I don't think there's a major difference between Atlanta and Houston. I think Atlanta shows what Houston could be with the right setup, with the right everything. And I think we're just missing these little things that need to be better and need to improve. Oh God, they're pushing really hard, Edson. He's right. There's areas that we can certainly improve, and as an organization, and I do think that that's going to happen. Wow, I'm using my hands more a lot. I looked at the YouTube video. I shouldn't have done that. There's more things that we can do as fans, and there's plenty more that the organization can do. And I'm going to get back to this point, because I think this was an important point, and I don't want it to get lost among this. Is that, like I said, if we expect the front office to put in the effort, then on the flip side, we should put in the effort as well. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people over the years that have put in a lot of effort, and they deserve all the credit for that. But at the same time, there is plenty of room for improvement there. And, if we can't change those other things that we've already talked about, like ownership and coach and et cetera, and tactics and things like that. If we can't have control over those things, let's at least do our part to have control over the things we can, which is ourselves as fans, ourselves as supporters of the club, ourselves as attendees at matches, et cetera. It's what did Edson do? What did I miss?
It's okay. Don't worry.
Did you put a meme on the screen while I'm talking? Oh, guys. Oh, Lord. Surf Fiesta makes a really good point. Big test for Houston is getting a World Cup game with USA coming on 3/26 to BBVA. I agree, but I also think that it's a frustrating thing for a lot of us, because Because if you look at the match that's coming here on 3/26, and you look at the prices of tickets, they're expensive as all heck. And a lot of people keyed on, it's a lot of added fees and things like that, but that's stuff that USSF controls, not the Dynamo, and not BBVA Compass Stadium, not ownership. That's the big thing is it's expensive because USSF makes it expensive, and it is absolutely a United States Soccer Federation problem, not a Dynamo problem, not a Houston problem, etc. You can see it because there are fans from other markets that experienced the same thing, where the prices were extremely high for this type of match, and they had the same reaction of, this is crazy. How are you going to price out your fans? And that's essentially what it is. But on the flip side, we say that, and then look at all the Tigres fans that traveled just to see their team. How many Mexico national team fans traveled to see the Mexico national team play? You know, we only get to see the U.S. men's national team play live once a year if we're lucky. So, yeah, that's an expensive cost, but isn't that the way it should be? I mean, I know that sounds crazy because I'm sitting here going, I'm kind of kicking myself because I haven't bought a ticket and I'm probably not going to go unless I can get match credentials, and then I'll go. Edson, I need to work on that with you, by the way. I'm thinking about that. But, you know, if these other places pay this kind of money, and they do, to see their national team play, then why is it so outrageous for us to not expect the same thing? No, Cisco, there were Austin fans there, fans from Austin.
RGV.
RGV. I saw the RGV banner. There were fans from Chicago. I saw the Chicago banner. There were fans from, what was the other one that I saw?
Lufkin.
I didn't see the Lufkin one. I saw one other one. Sergio and I were pointing it out. Jeff and I were pointing it out actually last night, the different ones that we saw.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people that I know made the trip all the way from Monterrey that are part of pretty much the leadership of Libres y Locos. So,
and Sir Fiesta, that's a damn good point too. You know, people pay this same kind of money for Texans tickets. So why can't we? A lot of people will pay a lot more money for it. And let's be real, the Texans are mediocre at best, right? So, I mean, you know, whatever. I mean, but at least the U.S. men's national team right now is worth watching. Pasadena. You know, it's I get the frustration with the price of the tickets because me as a fan, me as an individual, I feel that frustration. Like I said, I'm not buying a ticket because I feel the same way. But I also understand their Darby. That's true. I also understand their kind of USSF's, you know, mentality behind it is that all these other fan bases pay that kind of money. It's not like they're going above and beyond the expense. It's the same cost almost exactly. And so if you expect a world-class team, you should be expecting world-class, you know, payment ticket cost essentially. So anyways, I don't want to dive into that too deep just because it is one of those things that isn't going to change. I'm not going Surf Fiesta. I want to go to the US match so bad, but as of right now, I'm not going. Just too much going on. I need a break. I took today off work and I still need a break. Edson can attest to this at this point, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's you know, I want to go. If an opportunity opens up, if someone hands me a ticket, I will go. But otherwise, I'm probably not going to buy a ticket specifically to that match. Although as it gets closer, maybe I will buy tickets. So maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, you know, Cisco makes a good point. And Cisco and I have been in this boat. Well, okay. We also had Dynamo season tickets, but he and I have paid what, $150, $200, if not more, for nearly floor seats for Rockets games. And yet I'm sitting here talking about how expensive the U.S. men's national team tickets are for one match, you know, one opportunity to finally see this team play. You know, so like I said, guys, I get it. Trust me when it comes to the price of the tickets. But I think we need to take it, you know, I think it's a perception, and we need to take into account kind of their point of view and why they feel that way. And it feels so dirty saying that, because I do think there are plenty of issues with United States Soccer Federation right now. But I think ticket prices is something that is being blown way out of proportion, and is something that a lot of fans don't recognize why it is the way it is. It's easy to say, well, it's a lesser match. We should pay less money. But England national team, I mean, people pay hundreds of dollars for those tickets too. And it doesn't matter how big it is, how big the match is. So, it's just, I think we lose, sometimes as fans, we tend to lose sight of, why things are the way they are. Well, Kenny, why do you feel that? Why aren't you sure how to feel about that comparison? Express yourself, my friend.
I don't know, man. Like I said, England, they're not that. I don't think they're that high of a difference between England and USA.
I mean, different, but I mean, it is still.
I think David, I think the cheapest were like $50 for USA for the USMNT this.
Yeah, I want to say that the cheapest was actually like $37 before fees, and then you tacked on like $15 to $20 for fees, so it ended up being over $50.
So Kenny says there's a lot better players involved in Rockets, Astros, and Texans games. Texans is debatable.
Yeah, JJ Watt is definitely better. Come on now, you can't even argue that. But it's still, Pulisic is still a world-class talent. I'll leave it at that. I was going to name another player, and I'm like,
And I think that is the reason why people aren't willing to spend that kind of money for the USMNT tickets. Blues fan says, I see USSF as thieving thugs, harming the sport for profit, but hey, that's just my opinion.
But, I mean, I agree completely with that, and I think that is a lot of the sentiment and why I think this game is likely not to be a sellout is for that very reason, that there is a sentiment about, or there is a frustration with United States Soccer Federation, especially after last year's fiasco of not having a coach for pretty much the entire year. There was, and we've said this, there was no reason they couldn't have named Greg Berhalter coach earlier. There's no reason he couldn't have started his process earlier. Yes, he was Columbus's coach, but that he could have been both for a year. Plenty of coaches do it where they're both for a year.
Even Tuchel didn't.
Brian says, to keep it soccer related, I'd rather spend my money to see the Dynamo play in Monterrey than the U.S. men's national team play in BBVA. That's actually an interesting statement. I probably would too if I didn't have to work.
Same.
I feel bad for Harry. Like, we haven't talked to any RGV at all, and he's probably just dying inside. We are going to make this. Go ahead.
It's okay. We'll talk RGV tomorrow at Down in the Valley. That's what.
Yeah. If you're interested in RGV, Toros, or otherwise, make sure you guys tune into Down in the Valley tomorrow. Same channel, same YouTube channel. Same time.
We're gonna have Carson on tomorrow. So you guys remember Carson Merck? He's gonna be on the show tomorrow. So be sure to tune in.
Sir Fiesta, I will let you know, I was behind the goal when Messi scored as well. I was in the U.S. men's. I was in the Sam's Army section for that one. It was Sam's Army, yeah, Sam's Army section for that. And I had no voice after that match was over. I was actually one row, maybe two rows away from what do they call him? From the guy who dresses up like Teddy Roosevelt. I was 2 rows away from him. And he is amazing and the most amazing thing in the world. I do want to touch on that, Jake, actually, and Sarah, I want to touch on that as well. We've talked a lot of Dynamo. I want to talk a little bit of Dash. I think this is a great time to talk a little bit of Dash. But American Outlaws. Thank you. Yes. Teddy Goldsevelt. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. He's amazing, by the way. I met him. I had the chance to talk to him a little bit, get to know him. He is amazing. Probably one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And I've met pretty cool people, so it's pretty cool to meet him and talk to him a little bit. The Dash this week, this week / last week, made two really big, actually, I guess both of them were this week, made two really big moves. I guess technically three, and Sarah and Jake, you'll have to tell me the name of the third player. I don't remember her name. But the Dash traded for Christine Nairn. I am back flipping over bringing Nairn in. I think she's going to make our midfield even better. They brought back Ari Romero for this season, Ariana Romero, who, by the way, I have always loved as a Dash player and will continue to love as a Dash player. I love the way she plays. I think she and Alyssa Chapman on the outside are possibly two of the best outside backs in the league. I am that high on Ari, and I've always been that high on Ari. I was sad when she got hurt while playing over in Norway. I'm glad to see she's fully back healed and able to come to the Dash. And I hope she has a really good season, because I do think she has the talent to be a very good player in the league, especially with the other players around her. And then the third move was they brought in Satara Murray,
from Liverpool Women.
From Liverpool Women, which is cool because it shows that they are looking internationally, which they haven't done that style in the past, where they're bringing them in from international clubs. Normally, the ladies were brought in from, like with Vera, they were brought in from the South African team. With Randy, they were tended to be brought in from specific locales such as Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm really excited to see. I think that what Clarkson has done this offseason and working with his technical staff that he's built up, the assistant coaches and everything. Satara is from Austin, won NCAA with Kalia and Amber. So she went to North Carolina. Then she's a Tar Heel, is what you're saying, which is actually pretty awesome. I didn't know that. But seeing what Clarkson has done this offseason has gotten me excited about the Dash again. Vera kind of put me off a little bit from the Dash, and it wasn't her fault. I think it was just that. But the Dash are fantastic. They were really good at the end of the year last year, the second half of the season. And I really have high hopes that they're going to be a really good team this year. Jake and Sarah, that's going to be a tough sell for most Dynamo fans because the Dynamo play at 4 p.m. Saturday. So kind of difficult. But if you are a fan of women's soccer, definitely go out and to HSP if you're not already going to be at the Dynamo match on Saturday and go see the Dash play against the University of Texas Longhorns. There will be other opportunities throughout March to see the Dash play at Houston Sports Park. They've got the preseason schedule up on the Dash website. Go check it out for sure. Sarah, I've already committed that I'm going to be out at one of them. I just don't know which one yet. I think we had established maybe one of them in particular, but I'm definitely going to be out at one of them. And I know I'm going to try to schedule it with one that you're going to be there so we can hang out and chat. Yes, March 30th is that one. And I think I'm taking off work for that, actually. Unless it's a Saturday, then it's not quite as big a deal. Yeah, it's a Saturday. So I guess I won't have to take off work for that one. Is there a Dynamo match March 30th? That would be good to know. Edson, Cisco, you want to get on that?
Yeah, because the next one is on March. Well, okay, actually. So tomorrow there's one at 7. Scrimmage versus Houston Baptist University.
Okay.
And then it's trying to find Houston. Here we go. Houston Dash schedule. So no, that's not the right one because that's the actual NWSL.
You could have just gone to houston-soccer.com and pulled up the schedule from there. It's on their schedule.
That's why it only gives the the actual NWSL.
The regular season matches.
Yes.
At Colorado on the 30th. Okay, yeah. So there is a Dynamo away match that day, the 30th of March.
Yes.
So yeah, that's, if I remember correctly, that was the one I had planned to go to anyways, the Dash scrimmage. Probably the 2 p.m. because I'm sure the Dynamo play at 7. So 5 o'clock would be a little tough. But
no. There we go. Thought I pressed pause.
Sorry, I'll stop talking. No, you're good. You're good. They also play. Okay, so Sarah says Dash also play A&M on March 23rd. Lots of Mexico's female federation will be players on the field that night. That's kind of cool. Are there a lot of interesting? Anyways,
I might be able to go to that one.
Definitely go out, guys, and take in a scrimmage or a match for the Dash, especially Dash matches this year. As much as it's do our part for the Dynamo, it's also do our part as a city for our NWSL club as well, the Dash. And look, if you want to get involved and you want to get engaged, if you're frustrated with the Dynamo, and you're like, I love soccer, but I'm frustrated with the Dynamo, check out the Dash. Go talk to Sarah and the supporters group, Bayou City Republic. I got it right. Bayou City Republic, at the Dash matches. And I promise you that, if you feel like the supporters groups for the Dynamo aren't overly welcoming, or, it's too big and there's too many people, it's hard for you to get involved, go out to the Bayou City Republic and hang out with Sarah and them. And I promise you that they'll definitely, you will definitely be more than welcome. Anybody who shows up and hangs out in their section is like loved beyond measure. So for sure. And, connect with people too. I mean, the Dash is one of those things that, because of the smaller attendance, you can get to know the people that are attending the match with you. And it's something that kind of bonds you together. So, definitely take the opportunity to go out to some matches. It's amazing. Sarah says they pregame at 8th Wonder 3 hours before kickoff. That's amazing. That's awesome. 8th Wonder is just down the street, literally down Hutchins, a couple of blocks from BBVA. So yeah, I mean, go pregame, go hang out.
Yeah.
I plan to attend at least a couple of matches this year, Sarah. And I will definitely do my part by being in the Bayou City Republic section. Maybe I'll bang on a bucket for you. And if you've never experienced Bayou City Republic drumming on buckets, it is seriously one of the most unique supporters experiences, just not even being in the supporters group, but just being, around the supporter section, near the supporter section. It is one of the most unique and one of the coolest. It's almost tradition at this point. One of the coolest traditions that's kind of formed out of it. And it just sounds cool. I don't know if they still do the buckets. You guys have, come on. The buckets were cool. You guys should bring back the buckets. Actually, you really should, for like a couple of matches, maybe the ones that I'm there. But seriously though, in all seriousness, definitely make it out to a Dash match. I'm not just saying that because Sarah and Jake are in here, and David is hyping them up, but it is. I've been to enough Dash matches. I used to have Dash season tickets. I can say, Dash is incredible. As a team, it's fun. As an environment, it's fun. As long as you can get over the 13 and 12 to 15-year-old girls screeching and squealing. I guess some of them are 10. As long as you can get over the little squealing girls, it won't be too bad. But it is a lot of fun. It really, really is. And you get more of an intimate feeling in terms of you're closer to the pitch for the most part, unless you sit on the front row for Dynamo matches. You get the same experience in terms of you're at the same stadium, those kinds of things. And the product on the pitch is just really good quality. Really, really good quality. Okay, yeah, I guess if you're breaking a bucket every match, that would make it kind of expensive over the year. So I guess I can understand that. Still kind of sad because I really did dig the plastic bucket sound. Like it's unique and it's cool, but I get that you might break it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Every match. And you do tend to get your anger and frustration out on those buckets, Sarah. So that makes sense. Oh, dude,
Yeah.
Look, we complain about how soft the men's players tend to be. And then you go to a women's match, and it's just crazy how physical those ladies are. And they take it and dish it back out. Oh my goodness. Like, not just Amber Brooks, but Rachel Daly is not opposed to getting a little physical if needed. Alyssa Chapman is definitely not opposed to getting physical. I call her a Wolverine for a reason. I use the term ladies because they are ladies regardless. But just top to bottom, I mean, NWSL in general is just a much more physical league. It doesn't hurt that the refs are total crap.
Daily shanks players for fun.
I mean, she's not wrong. But the referees are so bad that you end up with way more physicality because the referees either don't see it or just don't care. I don't know which. And I know they agree with me, which is the funny thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things. But seriously, though, the environment, the action is just it's absolutely amazing and fun to watch. But it's fun to be a part of. And I'm looking forward to the 2 or 3 matches I'll make it out for. Here's the thing: if everybody in chat, if everybody watches this video, makes it out for 2 or 3 matches to the Dash this season, that's going to help their attendance tremendously. And whether you want to say that's because the Dash aren't great and what have you, whatever. Your negativity is it's whatever. But go enjoy the experience. Go experience the experience. If you've got family members, younger family members especially, take them to a Dash match. It's geared to be more family friendly. Even though it's more physical on the pitch, it's geared to be more family friendly. And it really is. I mean, I took my niece probably 4 or 5 matches a couple seasons ago. Absolutely loved it. And now she's into soccer. And so I was able to take her to a couple matches last season, or just one match last season for the Dynamo. And she fell in love with the Dynamo too. So, definitely worth going and watching them play as well. That's okay, Sarah. They hear worse than swearing anyways, so it's okay. They hear worse at school. So we didn't do DITV Express. We didn't do that last week either. So what are you guys talking about tomorrow? Don't do the special thing. Just talk about what you're talking about.
So tomorrow we're gonna have Carson Merck. We're gonna be talking about the season opener against Tacoma Defiance, formerly known as Seattle Sounders 2. We're going to be talking about the new kits that were presented yesterday. And we're also going to be talking about the home match that's going to happen on the 16th against Fresno FC. But that's pretty much it, what we have planned for tomorrow. Like here at Generation Orange, we try to be very interactive with the chat. So if you guys have any topics or any questions you have about the Toros, feel free to ask either Jacob and I, or maybe Ray if he's on. We'll try to answer the best. I know we've had in previous episodes, we've had a couple of questions even about college soccer and how that influences the USL. And I don't really follow college soccer, but I mean, Ray has worked with college sports for a long time. So he had a lot of experience and was able to answer those questions perfectly. So if you guys want to know more about the second division team for the Dynamo, RGVFC Toros, be sure to listen tomorrow at 7 p.m. down in the Valley. We usually have a lot of interesting topics to talk about. And pretty much prepares you to know more about these future Dynamo players that are down there.
Yeah, and of course, Brian makes a good point, too. Going back to the Dash real quick. Sorry not to take any shine off the Toros, but Brian makes a good point, too. And I didn't mention this, but it's important. Oh, shut up, Edson. I say, like I said, take your kids. Take your kids, take your nephews, take your nieces, take your grandkids, whatever. Take people to the Dash games, especially kids. That kids are just, I'm serious, kids. I don't know what it is about the Dash games, but they get excited. They enjoy themselves. They have fun. It's great, and I think it's that it's not an intimidating atmosphere. Whereas Dynamo games, especially ones that sell out, can be a bit intimidating for kids. So I think it's good that it's a smaller attendance in that regard. Take your mom and grandma, dad and uncle. Yes, absolutely.
So Cisco asked how the interview with Maida get received. I think within the audience of Down in the Valley, I think it made waves. I've had a couple of people talk to me on social media down in the Valley that after hearing that interview, they were able to be convinced to buy season tickets for the Toros. So I think within our audience, it made a huge impact. Sadly, like outside of our audience, we still kind of don't have that pull on the RGV market. But if we could help out with one little thing, with just a couple of people that go out there and buy season tickets, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it's our grain of sand to the team that we love.
Well, and to help you feel better about that, that one person or two people that sign up for season tickets, they go, they enjoy the experience, they start tuning in more regularly. It's organic, because then they start inviting people and they get people involved, they get people engaged, and that just gets exponential over time. And that's the whole reason why Do Our Part as a movement is kind of important, because it's, hey, I'm glad to hear that, Cal. I don't remember that, but that's pretty awesome. Or did I talk you into it this off season? It's the whole reason for Do Our Part is because it's an effect that it's a ripple effect, but the ripple has to start. Someone has to throw that stone into the water to cause the disturbance, to cause it to last year. Okay, cool. Thanks, Cal. I'm glad to hear that, actually, really. And did you enjoy yourself? That's the question everybody wants to know. I'm guessing you did, since you were telling everybody to take a youth squad to attach match. But, Do Our Part. It's about, it's about creating that effect. It's about finding, it's about getting involved and getting engaged and starting something. It's easy for fans. It's easy for us as fans to sit on the sidelines and not get involved. But once you get involved, you're taking ownership in what's going on. You're taking ownership in the team. You're taking ownership in what's happening, the atmosphere, the culture, whatever it is. You're taking ownership in that. And that's huge. That's important, because when you take ownership, you feel there's this connection. There's this electricity between yourself and the organization. When the players came on the pitch last night, and I'm sitting there next to Jeff and Sergio, and we're screaming our lungs off, I felt that connection with the players. And yeah, I mean, even in 102, where I'm sitting in 102, second row up next to Cisco, we'll clap and, yell a little bit for when the players would come on the pitch and practice. But that connectivity, that electricity that's there, it's just different when you get involved and get engaged. Cisco says he brought Juan out to his first game last year. And by his next game, he had a hat and a jersey and a t-shirt. I remember that. And then he was asking about tickets. He wanted to go last night. I would have gotten him a ticket, but he unfortunately had work that popped up out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. But that's a perfect example. It starts with one person. It starts with inviting a friend or a family member and getting them involved and helping them get engaged. For those that feel that the supporters groups, especially those that are part of the supporters groups, if you feel that they're not welcoming to new members, why don't you be that person that welcomes new members? Totally novel concept, mind-blowing concept, but it makes a difference. And, if you see those things that are wrong, take action to help improve them. And Jake makes a real good point too. One team, one family, forever Dynamo Dash. Toros are also in there too. As our Brazos Valley Cavalry and Cavalry, yes. And I guess the El Paso, what are they?
No, you're talking about the Laredo Heat. But that's in Academy Alliance.
Well, Dynamo Academy too, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about, right? So,
Not anymore, Cisco.
Yeah, no more
River.
Pittsburgh Riverhounds. He knows that. He's just being a jerk. He's trying to think of all the ones that have been part of the Dynamo family. But it Cisco's going, wait. Technically they are forever orange if you think about it. So, but it's this effect that we can have as fans. And if you're watching this stream, if you're watching the show, there's no doubt you're a fan already. So that's kind of the whole point of Do Our Part. It's do what we can do to make things better. Because at the end of the day, if we can help make things better, it'll make things better not just for us, but it'll make things better for a lot of other people too. And when you make things better for a lot of other people too, guess what? They're going to start making things better for other people as well. And so it is a ripple effect, and it just starts with one person doing something. So you can be that one person. You can be that rock that gets thrown in the water that starts the ripple effect. When I say ripple effect, I mean it starts with the one ring around the rock. That ring grows and grows, and you have more rings that grow and grow and grow, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it goes from disturbing one spot in a small pond to disturbing, hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. If the rock is big enough, if the disturbance is big enough. So, Do Our Part is just as much about getting involved as it is helping. And getting involved and helping don't have to be the same thing. They can be different. But, and like I said, too, it's part of it is you don't have to be a supporter. You don't have to go and support in the supporters groups. Support however you want to support. Be you. But, if being you means, hey, I want to go volunteer and help out with Dynamo charities. I want to go help out with Habitat for Humanity. All you have to do, I'm confused by Callow, but okay. You'll have to explain yourself, Callow. I don't understand why you're disturbed, unless there's something I need to know that I'm not aware of, which I suppose there could be. Damn, he totally derailed my entire train of thought. Good job, Callow. Good job, buddy. But support how you're going to support the way you want to support. And like I said, if that's you going and volunteering for the Dynamo charities and doing Habitat for Humanity, or going to help out at the food pantry or shelter or whatever it is, if all it is you throwing on some Dynamo gear and going to a shelter and helping out there, or going to a local the food pantry. I'm trying to think of other things. Gallo, now that makes sense. I guess because of the timing, it didn't quite compute what you're referring to. But do your part. It can be something as simple as that, something as simple as trying to find ways to connect. I find myself now personally wearing my Dynamo gear around my apartment complex, and I've had people ask me when I go up to the front office to pick up packages because I'm wearing a Dynamo hoodie or I'm wearing a Dynamo shirt or whatever it is. Oh, hey, you're a fan of the Dynamo. I'll get that, I'll get that statement. I'm like, oh yeah. If you've been to I get the question, have you been to their matches? Yeah, just a few. It's an opportunity, and I think there truly, honestly, are enough people out there right now that are interested in soccer and interested in wanting to have something to cheer about and something to involve themselves in. That 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 people can really, really make a huge impact. And it's just that it has to start somewhere. And what better place to start than here, with people that I know are passionate people, and people that I know because they've reached out to me outside of the show and said, man, your talk last week, it inspired me to get involved. And I've seen the effect already. And no, you don't have to have a podcast. You don't have to have a platform like this to get involved or to do your part. Again, your part can be as simple as just volunteering and wearing Dynamo gear, whatever it is. Do your part, man. Just get involved. I promise you, at the end of the day, that it will make a difference somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. You don't have to take a huge step. Just keep on doing what you love to do. and just, if it's as simple as wearing more Dynamo or Dash jerseys in your normal day-to-day life, then that's good too, because you're pushing that exposure of the team brand, the team's colors out there to people who maybe for some reason have no idea that the team exists. I know when I wear my Toros gear, so here's a funny story. I actually had one time I was preparing for Down on the Valley here in the apartment. I ordered some pizza, and I was wearing my Toros shirt, and the pizza delivery guy comes in, hands me my pizza, and is like, "Oh, you're a Toros fan?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Whoa, nice.
So apparently he had friends that played or were trialing with the Toros last season, and that's how he knew about the Toros. And he told me the names, but I can't remember which ones they were. I think he knew. I think one of the names was actually he knew Brandon Morales.
That's awesome.
So I thought that was cool. But something like that, gets people interested. And maybe not all of them have the courage to ask questions about your shirt, but it at least pushes that exposure up. And that's one little thing that you can do to help the Dynamo and the Dash.
And there are people out there that are already fans of the Dynamo. Maybe they watch them on TV, like Juan. Actually, I don't think Juan even watched them on TV before that. But, there are people out there that will either watch the team on TV or whatever. But they've gathered that perception from past experiences or conversations with other people that the experience is really bad. And, or maybe that, in general, the fan base is not very welcoming for whatever that is. And, you just wearing your Dynamo shirt, maybe it gives them enough of a reason to ask you a question or think about the team and think, hey, maybe I should go to a match, whatever it might be. I mean, it really can make a difference. And I hope that gets across with this show, that's really one of the main goals of this show in general, is we want to make a difference. We want to be a place that fans can come and, spend an hour and a half talking about ownership and the team makeup and players and tactics and things like that, but also be a place that we encourage you guys to get out and get involved. Because at the end of the day, that's where our biggest impact really can be. It could be in that way, but yeah, I mean, we also want to be a voice for the fans. I mean, as you guys know, those of you who watch us regularly, if you're involved in chat, we'll talk about whatever y'all are talking about in chat. Callo says, I have a full team autograph scarf in my office. People always ask about. That's awesome. Cisco says, people know so little about the Dynamo because when I wear a jersey, they ask if I play with the team. Because he has an athletic physique, he says. I don't think that's correct.
Hey, Callo. No.
That looks more like a footballer than Kevin Garcia.
No,
I mean, okay, look, you're gonna badmouth Kevin Garcia.
You mean I think you mean Eric Alexander.
Saturday, he played really good at right back. I cannot be upset with him right now because he played really good at right back on Saturday against RSL. Mm-hmm. And I suspect it's possible he might get another start against RSL. I mean, not RSL, against Montreal. So
speaking of that match,
what a wonderful segue.
Predictions.
I'm not doing predictions anymore.
Oh, come on. They're fun, especially the bold predictions.
All right. Yeah, bold predictions are a tradition now. Arturo, however it is. Okay, that's fair. I can't argue that point. Bold predictions. Playing Montreal. Bold prediction. Marlon Hairston starts and scores our first goal. Mm-hmm. And assists on 2 more goals. We win the match 3-2.
Wow. Oh. My bold prediction is that Kevin Garcia starts and he scores a goal. The other goal is going to be scored by Adam Lundqvist.
What's the final score?
2-0.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say like 2-1 or something. I was like, oh, so Kevin Garcia scores an own goal. Got it. When was the last time? When was the last time KG actually scored a goal?
He actually scored against I think it was Seattle. Here. I don't remember.
Oh, was that the one that came off like his back shoulder? Like it came off.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. It was good service in the box. I'm just kidding. He plays well. He's inconsistent, but he plays well. Hashtag USL. I can feel your angst at that statement, Edson. So David says Menotis with a hat trick, Dynamo 5-0. Jake says Dynamo 3-0-4-0. Callow says Lundqvist starts and blasts a left foot from outside the box. Blues says my bold prediction failed because Derek didn't get on the starting 11. It's okay. My bold prediction was not 3-0 scoreline. My bold prediction before the match was a red card before the 15th minute for Tigres. They should have seen one, but they didn't.
So speaking of, so about that 3-0 scoreline you said last week.
Yeah. Hey, I told you I was sticking by it. I stuck by it. I've made it 2.5 hours without talking about it. I'm not talking about it. I mean, to be fair, though, again, it comes back to, was I not right, though, in saying the team had the capability to have that scoreline going into the 65th minute? We had the chances. There's no doubt we could have, theoretically, with the same lineup, the same tactics, had that scoreline. Now, after that, once Beasley got hurt, that's a different story. The game shifted tremendously. But until that point, 3-0 wouldn't have been totally far-fetched to believe could have happened. And so my belief in that scoreline was not unfounded. And I do think if we had scored 1 or 2 goals on Tigres early, that would have put Tigres more on the back foot. I think Tuca would have been more likely to make earlier substitutions. He would have been more likely to make more tactical changes earlier, and it would have changed things. The outcome would have been very different if we score a couple of early goals. Monterrey are currently winning 1-0 PK goal.
And let me guess, a dubious call in favor of Monterrey. Why am I not surprised?
Probably. Somebody said, Cisco said Pena brace, and then Blues fan followed up with Pena suspended. He is. You know
what a bold prediction would be?
That would be bold.
if Disco says, "Oh, you know what? It's okay. One's fine," and he's eligible to play against.
At this point, they've already handed it down. They're not.
No, I know.
They're not
That's what I'm saying. It's a really bold prediction.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good, Cisco. Trust me. I'm having trouble keeping track of who's suspended in which competitions. Jake says Elise hat trick plus a brace versus Montreal. So you're saying Elise is going to have 5 goals? Whoa. Whoa. Wow. Blues, that gets me in the heart, my dude. He said he's watching us over the Monterrey match. It gets me in the heart, gets me in the feels.
Love you, man. Love you.
Okay, let me say this. How pissed am I that they called back that goal in the 76th minute? Oh, my God. I was like, we got gift cards for free gas. No, we didn't, because fuck MLS officials.
Oh, you mean
I'm not hurt over that one at all. I mean, they're technically MLS officials either way, but yes.
I don't know. To me, I'll have to look at it again, but to me it seemed... Once I look at the replay, it did seem like he was a little bit off.
So they've got a freeze frame. Boney is actually level. His arm is beyond the guy's foot.
But
he is level.
Yeah, but at the time of the freeze frame, who was it? I think it was Elise, or who passed the ball to him? Or was it Menotis? The foot was still not touching the ball in that freeze frame.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't taken a close look at it because I just was like, whatever. As soon as I saw the ref's arm go up, I was like, I knew immediately what it was. I was like,
yeah. And I know there was a lot of people saying that why didn't they use VAR? I think they did use VAR.
Cisco says it would be pretty bold if he doesn't bust his lip. He busted his lip on Saturday, and it hasn't had enough time to heal between Saturday and yesterday. And then he's going to play again on Saturday again. And then not a lot of time for healing. So he's likely going to have a busted lip for at least another week. I mean, we lost 2 points because of the called back goal. And, for whatever it is worth, Boney agreed with the decision in post-game comments. But I still it was close enough that the AR should have kept his flag down and let VAR overrule it. Mm-hmm. That's the way that the refs have been taught to handle VAR and handle potential offsides that are close like that. And there's no doubt that he could have called that in real time as being offside without it being that close. It should have then gone to VAR, and VAR should have made the determination. Not that it changes a whole lot, but that's what they say to do because that's what they prefer to do. Let VAR make the decision. Don't put it in your hands. Put it in VAR's hands. Mm-hmm. And look, those officials Saturday, and honestly, those officials last night were not great. They weren't terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but they weren't good either. The official last night, I felt like the entire official crew was pretty bad. There were plenty of tackles on both sides that warranted more cards that weren't brandished. That first half, he did not tack on any extra time that it took the Dynamo to get ready for the free kick, which was awarded 30 seconds into stoppage time. That should have been warranted extra time because they had a player down that was not faking an injury. So it was things like that just absolutely tanned my hide. Yes, I'm pulling out a really old school reference, but it really got my blood boiling over that match last night because it was without a doubt, it was the epitome of CONCACAF officiating. I take that back. I've seen worse. It was pretty bad CONCACAF officiating on both sides. I don't think better officiating would have changed the outcome of that match, but it would have definitely changed the flow of that match. Sergio, who is El Salvadoran, even agreed that referee was terrible, which, by the way, he was from El Salvador, which is why I use that as reference. Let's see. Yeah, and Calvo makes a good point, too. Cards were out early in that match on Saturday, and then – or is he talking – I don't know which match he could be talking about either matches. Let's be honest. Both were the same type of officiating. Cards early and then nothing late or very little late.
This match was extremely chippy. I think both sides they felt that the best way to stop each other was to make all these fouls in the midfield, and some weren't even called by the official. Not
at all. And it was, like I said, it was both sides. Don't get me wrong. It was both sides. The little bit of a dust up between Kyoto and the Tigres right back.
Oh, you mean, no, that was with Carioca. He was the center defensive midfield. So okay. Yeah. So basically Carioca, I think it was when Carioca was pretty much protecting the ball for it to go out, and there was a little scuffle that Kyoto thought like he meant to hit him, and just pretty much got up in Carioca's face. And I believe in that play, Carioca didn't get a card, neither did Kyoto. And then there was another one where they call a foul on Tigres.
Yep.
And the
guy grabs the ball.
Yeah, Vargas grabs the ball, and he's all acting all dumb, like he's taking it out, and
then he drops the ball. A Dynamo player goes to pick it up, and he picks it back up, and then walks a few more feet, and then drops it again.
But that's all pretty much
that's CONCACAF.
Yeah,
that's CONCACAF. But that's my frustration, is that it's officiated terribly, and it's officiated way worse than MLS matches are. And that is kind of a scary thought, because the expectation in CONCACAF is that teams police themselves. Teams handle their own conflicts with each other. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think you end up seeing a lot more blow-ups in CONCACAF than you do in MLS. Because MLS refs will deal with it. CONCACAF refs won't. And that's kind of a scary proposition, you know? It's one of those things, man. I love CONCACAF because it's a regional thing, but I hate CONCACAF because they tend to use these really bad, they tend to let the officials dictate the game. And by the official last night not dictating the game, it had a profound effect on the game. Ultimately, I don't think it affected the scoreline, but it had an effect on the flow of the game, which, to be fair, the flow of the game was a lot better because he didn't call a lot of fouls that could have or should have been called. But on the flip side, by not calling those fouls, more players got into dangerous situations, such as Beasley getting hurt, that could have ultimately been a foul, and probably should have been a foul.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. I mean, it's just so much of those types of things. Blue says CONCACAF games are lawless, the final frontier of refereeing. I'm starting to wonder if CONCACAF even really pays officials or if they just hire guys off the street and stick them in referee uniforms and give them a whistle. Gallo says, I've seen better game management in Little League games. Are you talking about coaching from Wilmer, or are you talking about refereeing?
Oh,
but it's true. Oh, it hurts, but it's true. Man. So what else we want to talk about?
Hey, somebody's got to say it.
Both. I figured Gallo was just clarifying.
And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I think that the Dynamo continue acting the way they are is because nobody's there to call them out on it. Yeah. Nobody important is there to call them out on it.
It's interesting, right? Because, we talked about coaching earlier, but I don't see Wilmer as a coach that addresses players' attitude issues, players' frustrations, players' anger management on the pitch. I don't see him doing that. He let Kyoto throw a fit at the end of that match. And, sure, maybe he disciplines him in practice. Maybe he disciplines him off the pitch in some way, shape, or form. But the fact that Kyoto's done that how many times and continues to do it, and maybe it's just he's a hothead. I don't know. I'm sure he's got a fire and passion about him. But a good coach would deal with it. A good coach would be able to deal with it. And I don't feel like Wilmer's capable of dealing with it at this point. And so that comes back to the coaching thing that we talked about earlier, that, you have to deal with the issues on the pitch. Otherwise, they just continue and they snowball and get worse.
Yeah.
Cisco says, remember last season when Elise got himself ejected because he got pissed off? Yeah, I do. I absolutely do remember that from last season. And, it's those types of things where, the Vera tackle in Saturday's match, he was already on a yellow. There was absolutely no reason for him to go in for that tackle the way he did. And not only that, he had defenders behind him that were able to cover. He didn't need to at all. And so these discipline problems, in terms of on-pitch discipline, these fall on coach to handle. And I don't believe he's handling them. If he is, he's not handling them well. He's not dealing with them well. Calla says Vera was close to getting carded Tuesday as well. Yeah, you're not wrong. Cisco says the guy was going away from his own goal. Yeah, he was running in the other direction. So he just didn't need to scissor tackle him like he did. And I think a lot of these players are. And again, that comes back on the coach to manage those situations, manage those players, manage those attitudes, manage those issues. And I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I mentioned before, if coach isn't doing everything, he isn't making it apparent that he's working on that issue, then I don't know. We're not going to see an improvement in anger management, and that is going to affect us, whether we want to or not, down the season, especially with a lot of people saying that this year's depth is still not as good as it should be when it comes to that. Even though we do have Marlon in the attack, I think we have Marlon Hairston, Tommy Mack, so I think we should be fine, and I think we should be fine on there. But why get yourself in that predicament when you can just tackle the root cause and try to have your best players out there, week in and week out. Obviously, you don't want to fatigue them too much, but
I heard this brought up last year it was probably on Soccer Matters where I heard this brought up, that I believe it was Eddie Robinson that actually said this on the show. As a player, you have to know the official that is the official of your next match. You have to know what his tendencies are. Is he a stricter ref? Is he a more lenient ref? Is he more likely to call fouls early and then not call them late? Is he likely to not call them early and then call them late? Is he likely to brandish a red card quick if there's a major heavy tackle? Yeah. As a player, it's your responsibility to scout the officials as much as it is to scout the players. But on the flip side, it's also the responsibility of coaches to give you that information. And if the technical staff aren't taking that information and giving it to players, then the technical staff is failing the players just as much as the players are failing the fans.
Yeah.
And failing their teammates. Calla says Wilmer needs to take charge and settle players down. He should know temperaments. He should know temperaments for players, and he should also know temperaments for referees. Some referees, you can piss a referee off as a player, and they will absolutely card you. They will absolutely be on your case. They're gonna focus on every minute detail. They're gonna make you pay for it. David agreed. It looks terrible. And Edson's hurting inside at me saying that too. Callus is part of being a coach is being a babysitter. It's also being a manager of egos. It's being a manager of temper tantrums. Being a babysitter as well. It's managing. It's managing. And what I see Wilmer doing is just coaching, and not managing. And I think the longer we have a coach and not a manager, I feel it's going to be a long-term detriment to the growth of our young players. And that scares me with Matt Jordan saying we have some under 17s and that are about to that they're prepared to offer MLS contracts to, or at least homegrown contracts to. If you have a coach that's just coaching and not managing, it's detrimental to their growth and their development. And if that's one of the things that we're going to rely on is youth development over time, then coach needs to handle that. He needs to be part of that process. And I'm not sure he is at this point. I mean, besides Elise and Kyoto and Morrow, who are players that came in with all the talent, name a young player that's shown that he belongs in the starting lineup. Cabezas, I mean, he's 25, I guess, maybe. Lundqvist, but okay, I would agree with that. But I mean, he belonged in the lineup the moment he got to Houston. Mm-hmm. He had the talent already. He has the capability already. There's nobody that was a bench player that's made his way into the starting lineup. There's nobody that's improved besides Morrow. But again, with Morrow, I think it's not as much Wilmer's coaching as it is him just growing in form, him finding confidence, him figuring out MLS and how to play in MLS. I wonder if we look back at Wilmer's time with the Dynamo, I wonder if we're going to look back at the end of his tenure and go, did he really develop players, or did players come here and figure out how to develop themselves? I think we can't ignore that, because again, coming back to this, the Dynamo say we're going to be a team that focuses on these specific areas, and one of those areas is youth development. That's going to be a primary source of player talent. Then you have to have a coach and a manager that is capable and good at getting the most out of young players. And I just don't believe Wilmer is.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope that at least with what we've got, we see some improvement. this year. But if front office doesn't want to see it, then we can talk. We can talk all night.
Yeah,
about
for
the
sure.
same thing, and nothing's gonna happen. And if the media in here, the main media here, doesn't do anything to care about the Dynamo or challenge, Wilmer Cabrera and the organization, then nothing's gonna change if there's no pressure.
Sure. Let's see. We've got 15 minutes roughly or so.
Yeah.
Is there anything, guys, in chat that you want us to talk about before we end tonight? Otherwise, we may just end here because we're kind of winding down as it is. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes. So any news or notes, Edson, throughout the world of soccer that you want to share?
Well, Real Madrid eliminated, PSG eliminated, Roma eliminated. Wow, that was an awesome ending to that Roma versus Porto game.
The ending to the Manchester United PSG match was just as scintillating and entertaining.
Yeah, and in that because I watched that Roma match, and I think that there was a missed penalty call in favor of Roma in the last minutes of extra time that was reviewed by VAR and was still called as a no penalty. That could have changed because I think it was like 2 minutes left. If not, they were already in stoppage time when that foul happened inside the box. I think what else is interesting. Guess tomorrow there should be some more Champions League, or so. Wait, no. It was yesterday and today. Next week there should be some more Champions League.
We're down to the final 4 matches to determine who the final 8 will be. Because this is the round of 16, so the round of 8 is after this. Quarterfinals is after this, basically.
Yeah.
The Champions League this year has been way more fun to watch than even last year's was, and last year's was pretty good. And it's because the struggles of the top clubs and how much there is now some parity with these smaller clubs and clubs from smaller countries and smaller leagues being able to go toe-to-toe, even though these larger clubs have way higher payrolls and way higher talent levels. It's just these coaches at these smaller clubs in smaller leagues figuring out how to maximize the talent they have.
Well, it doesn't hurt that you have some of these big name clubs are going through a huge slump. The worst one having to be Real Madrid. I mean, it's just incredible.
And you're right, because Bayern Munich have struggled this year. Even Barca have struggled this year a bit here and there. You've had Manchester United have struggled this year. Not that it matters, and they're struggling to the tune of still top 5 team. So in the league, but it's interesting just to see the parity coming up, and starting to change in UEFA. Mm-hmm. Starting to see teams that are perennial powerhouses no longer be able to be perennial powerhouses for whatever it's worth. I am really looking forward to watching Tottenham in the quarterfinals. You have to give them credit for what they did to Borussia Dortmund. And some people would say Borussia Dortmund just aren't the same team they used to be. And I say to you, they're still better than your best team, in MLS at least. But it's interesting just to see it, because those types of matches where the best teams aren't just blowing out the competition, way more entertaining. Like the Manchester United PSG match, the Roma Porto match, the Real Madrid Ajax match. I mean, just these matches have been so entertaining to watch, and I find myself looking at the schedule to see when the next UEFA Champions League match is, because I want to watch more of it. And I mean, I love Champions League. I love soccer in general, so I'm going to try to find soccer on TV when I can. But I'm taking my lunch breaks around Champions League right now. So it's good stuff, man. I'm excited to see it happening.
Yeah, I just hate seeing how low Real Madrid has gotten. They've lost Copa del Rey, Champions League, pretty much the league in just this week, and it can be worse. I mean, if it continues to be like this, there's a big opportunity that Real Madrid might not even make it to the Champions League next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. And, it's I think it was Stu Holden on BR Bleacher Report's live pre or post show. It might have been his pre-show, that said, actually it was his post-show yesterday. He talked about how Real Madrid really, if they want to, if they're going to right this ship, they need to sell these older players and they need to start getting some younger players. And, it's funny because you and I talked about that months ago, while talking about FIFA.
Yeah.
Probably while playing FIFA, that was one of the biggest struggles they had so much old talent. And they weren't reinfusing with younger talent to replace them.
Here's the thing: under Solari and under Lopetegui, Real Madrid lost meritocracy. It was always putting in your elite players, your name players out there, even if they were going through a slump.
Mm-hmm.
Benzema not being in form, Toni Kroos, Luka Modric just playing horrible, and in the beginning of the season, you had Vinicius Jr. on the bench or playing with Real Madrid Castilla until they pretty much had no choice but to put him in, and I think it was, for me, the worst part of it was that you bench Keylor Navas, who was part of the team that brought you the 3 consecutive Champions Leagues, and you put him in for Courtois, which has been utter crap this year. He's had so many mistakes that have cost us really important goals in this season. When you didn't need to bring another goalkeeper. You needed to bring someone on the attack. You needed to bring depth or someone to be the starter replacement for Benzema, whether it's Harry Kane or Kylian Mbappe, But no, Florentino wanted to go the Dynamo way and be cheap about it this season because because I don't know if it's because of his ego or something like that, but his decisions in selling Cristiano, not bringing anybody to replace him, and not getting rid of those who really needed to be replaced, like Gareth Bale, it brought this team down to levels that Madridistas are not used to, and it sucks. As everybody knows, there's always good times, there's always bad times, but the huge disparity, or how soon the bad times came for Real Madrid, it pretty much shocked everybody, and it could have been, and everybody just feels like it could have been avoided, but ownership just chose not to.
Yeah, so Dave asks me how I feel about Spurs losing to Chelsea. I felt as miserable about that loss as I did the match last night after the match was over. How do I feel about Poch going to Real Madrid? He's not going to Real Madrid. I'm going to call you Dave because you just pissed me off by asking me about Spurs losing to Chelsea. You get a nickname you hate and you're going to deal with it. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, David. All right, later, Darby. Thanks for hanging in. We know. We're almost done. It's almost 3 hours is over. Got 3 minutes left. We're almost done. But seriously, though, Pochettino's not leaving. He's already stated as such. Even if the opportunity at Real Madrid came up right now, he wouldn't go right now.
And I've heard it's more closer to it. It's going to be Mourinho than anybody else.
That one. Have fun with that one.
Yeah, I don't see why people still want it.
But in all seriousness, that loss to Chelsea, to the Blues, it was one of those matches where going into the match, if you had asked me 2 weeks before, I would have been like, oh, yeah, Spurs on the form they're on right now is not going to be an issue. But going into that match a couple days before, with Harry being injured like he was, coming off injury like he was, with just the form of the team starting to dip a little bit, and with the exhaustion from all of the Champions League matches coupled with the Carabao Cup matches and the FA Cup matches, all in such a short period of time, kind of like the Dynamo. David, you were trying so hard to get under my skin, son. Don't even try. But with all those matches coupled together, the players were visibly exhausted. And, Chelsea are a team that are going to take advantage of those types of things. David says, he says that I'm right. Real Madrid won a winning team sooner than 5 to 10 years. Sure. But then why are they going for Jose Mourinho? Because when was the last time he actually won something of value? It was a while back, wasn't it? Say what you will, but Real Madrid can bring in a coach like Jose Mourinho. But did you see what he did with Manchester United? I mean, that style of play, sure, it's going to give them opportunities to stay in matches, but that also means it's going to give other teams opportunities to stay in matches. And in La Liga right now, that's a dangerous situation for Real Madrid to be in. So yeah. All right, Edson, it is time to shut this down, man. We have hit 2 hours and 56 minutes, man. I am 55 minutes. I am thoroughly done, to say the least. Especially with these fools trying to badmouth my team. But definitely need to do some Rocket League soon once this run of CCL matches and everything else is over. So we're not doing 3 matches a week. Well, ultimately 2 matches a week, but it feels like 3 at this rate. But we'll definitely do some more Rocket League soon enough, guys. Appreciate you guys for sure. But for now, peace out, y'all.
Out. All right, guys.
Forever Orange. Dash TF on. Somos Toros.
We are Toros. And hashtag do your part.
Do our part. Do our part.
Do our part. And
do our part.
And we are Gen Orange.
And we are, hashtag we are Gen Orange. See you guys next week. We appreciate y'all.
Bye.